Let's get it! 580 Sports Talk, live and direct on a Tuesday afternoon in the capital city. Thanks for being with us on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online worldwide at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our video stream. You can catch us on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on Facebook at WIBW News. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski, Spencer Dupuis will be along in a bit. We're excited to be with you for the next 3 hours of sports talk here on this Tuesday afternoon. Going to get to some NFL, going to get to some college basketball, going to talk Jayhawks because it is a Tuesday. We do Jayhawk Weekly. Lots of great stuff coming up on today's edition of 580 Sports Talk.
Get ready for some K-State hoops, too.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do. K-State tonight at Bramlage against Texas Tech. An 8 o'clock tip. It's a late one. I think this is a CBS Sports Network game. That's why that's what accounts for the later tip-off. But it is an 8 p.m. tip at Bram tonight. Pre-game coverage right here on your home for the Wildcats, 580 WIBW, starting at 7 o'clock. And I might be sitting on a pair of tickets that we'll give away this hour. If you want to make an impromptu trip out to Bramlage Coliseum with a pair of tickets courtesy of your friends at 580 Sports Talk, I'm going to give you the hookup on some tickets if you're able to make it out to the game tonight. Want to go see a Texas Tech team coached by a very good friend, an old colleague of Jerome Tang's, Grant McCaslin. Two branches from the Scott Drew coaching tree.
So this game tonight is indeed on CBS Sportsnet. This is, I'm venturing to say pretty confidently, the most bizarre Big 12 schedule day ever. 8 o'clock's the early game in the conference today. K-State, Texas Tech at 8, and Oklahoma State visits BYU at 8. Baylor plays at Arizona at 10. UCF plays at Arizona State at 10.
So you're telling me we're up all night to watch Big 12 basketball?
Been waiting all day for Arizona State night. Yeah.
Love it. Love late night Big 12 basketball that I no longer have the energy for as a new father. I don't know how it's treating you particularly. You're still in that infant stage where like any instant you can grab sleep, you have to get it. Like there's no negotiating. When the baby is sleeping, your daughter is 6 weeks?
About 6 weeks old.
Yeah. You're still in that you sleep when the baby sleeps stage.
Pretty much. Yeah. The problem has been there hasn't been a lot of that recently.
Uh-huh.
She's not big on being asleep.
Huh.
Yeah.
So it's
work in progress.
We've been fortunate. Our kid's a pretty good sleeper, our 7-month-old. But last night, apparently he didn't get enough. He didn't get enough to drink. He didn't get enough milk. And my wife was worried about it. And I said, he had 5 big bottles. He'll be fine. About midnight. And I am like, I have just fallen asleep. And he starts howling at midnight, and I can't get him to chill. And my wife from the bed goes, "Told you need another bottle." And I was mad, but she was right. I was frustrated, but she was right. Mom always is right. And extra bottle for Ash. Went right back to sleep and slept until the morning. So that was nice. But I say that to say that as he gets older, you get them down to that specific bedtime. And then when they start sleeping through the night, you feel like, okay, now I've got the opportunity to watch that late night Pac-12 basketball game. Or now, I suppose, that late night Big 12 basketball game. So it'll come back to you eventually. I can promise you that.
Well, that's nice.
So
got that going for me.
Yeah, we'll talk about that K-State game. We'll get into that later on in the show today. We'll also talk all things KU with Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Michael will join us for Jayhawk Weekly at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. We'll talk about the best 3-game defensive stretch in conference play for a Bill Self team ever. That's impressive. We'll talk about why that's happened. Look ahead to big game at Hilton Coliseum tomorrow night between KU and Iowa State, and also talk about some more really good KU football portal news. They got the kid from Texas yesterday with like a Dr. Zeus name
Justice Finkley.
Yeah, Finkley. That's what I was thinking of. Very Richard Scarry, Busy Town kind of name. Justice Finkley is like sentences the worm to community service because he drove the apple drunk.
Yeah, Finley would have made a lot more sense. Finkley is a new one on me.
So lots to get to with Michael Swain of Fog.net. Plenty of NFL to get to today. We're going to talk about the Chiefs and look back at the divisional round history for this team in the Patrick Reed. Wow. I have big live golf guy, Dan Lucero. The Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes era. I got the name.
You got it eventually.
Yeah. The Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes era. Of course, this will be the 7th divisional round game for the Chiefs. The Chiefs are 6-0 in those games. We'll look back at those 6 games and see if we can't pull a thread that maybe is telling about what we can expect from Saturday afternoon at Arrowhead Stadium when the Houston Texans come calling. And also an interesting note about some commonalities between the teams that the Chiefs have beaten in some of these divisional round games. So lots to get to and discuss with that. We'll break down last night's final wild card weekend game. The Lone Wolf got it right. I haven't had a great year picking games, but I was spot on last night. Rams over Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, Darnold was terrible. More even than Darnold being terrible, that is the worst the Vikings offensive line has played all year. Rams looked great. I mean, that's probably the best game I've seen from them all season.
They dominate. What, 9 sacks?
I believe it was 9, yeah.
9
Most
sacks.
sack yardage ever lost by a quarterback in a playoff game.
That's not a record you want to set.
Nope.
That would not be a record I would want to have next to my name. So we'll get into that a little bit. And we'll also, at the top of the 4 o'clock hour, if you remember back, if you are a regular listener, you may remember that back in August, we ranked the NFL quarterbacks. We ranked our top 10, our next 5, and our bottom 5. We'll leave those other lists alone, but we're going to look back at how we had the top 10 quarterbacks ranked in August, what we got right, what we really got wrong, and who's next. Who next year is going to be part of those discussions. We're not going to re-rank them yet because we get to this part of the season, we view all but like 8 quarterbacks in the leagues as failures because they're not playing this coming weekend, right? Like there's an element of failure that taints the seasons of all the quarterbacks who are not still alive. Mm-hmm. And so it's not really fair to now look at the quarterbacks and say, well, now let's rank them 1 through 10. We'll do another ranking in August. We'll do all that again together in August. But we'll look at how we kind of thought the quarterback hierarchy lined up in this past August and see how right, or be honest, how wrong some of us were with some of the rankings. I got one really bad, and I gotta own it when we get to that segment. It's not going to be it's not going to flatter us in every aspect. Let's just say
we'll look at who's next. We will also recreate ESPN's Who's Now bracket for an entire segment.
Yes, we will. Who is more now?
Is that the dumbest thing ESPN's ever done?
Yes, it was an entire summer.
It was. I remember it very well.
It was an entire summer.
Didn't Tiger win?
Like
Tiger won.
It was like Tiger Woods, or like, when was this? When did they do it? Was I in college?
2007, maybe?
In 2006, 2007. Yeah, I was like, Derek Jeter or Tiger Woods. Who is more now?
Yes.
What is that
now?
mean?
The ultimate sports star. The final was Tiger Woods beating LeBron James. This was in July and August of 2007.
Wow. I don't know. I think LeBron was really now. Looking back, I think he was a little bit more now.
Maria Sharapova got a 4 seed in this tournament.
I tell you what, 2006. That's what are we working with here? That's 20-year-old Dan thought Maria Sharapova was extremely then.
Shaun White was relevant at the time.
Sure he was.
LaDainian Tomlinson made it multiple rounds.
Very now.
Shout out to LT.
His nowness, one of the big reasons he made it to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You know, when you look back, he's the intangible value of nowness.
This and the ESPN phone, the 2 dumbest things they may have ever done.
Did you ever make it to an ESPN zone?
Yes,
restaurant?
I went to the one in, I believe I went to the one in downtown Disney, if I remember correctly.
So they had one in Denver on the 16th Street Mall, and me and my best friend took our homecoming dates there before the homecoming dance.
Sounds sick.
Yeah, he married his. So, I mean, I had It worked out.
What happened to yours?
Nice woman.
Yeah.
Married to someone else. So am I.
I mean, it's very relatable and still a real, like, I remember my senior year homecoming of high school, we went to Buffalo Wild Wings.
Well, you know what Buffalo Wild Wings probably didn't have? Pop-A-Shot.
No, it did not.
Air
It did
hockey.
not have Pop-A-Shot. That is correct.
The game where you throw the football, like the Pop-A-Shot, but for football.
Yes. That one gets a lot of play when I go to Dave & Buster's with my wife.
That's a good time. So lots to get to on the show today. Plus, of course, all of the things you've come to know and love from the program. Sports headlines, top of the 5 o'clock hour. What is wrong with you coming up? Random question Tuesday in a bit. That is all part of the program. And your interaction with the show today, invited and encouraged as always. If you are watching on the YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, our live stream on youtube.com, the web browser, or on your mobile device, there is a live chat feature. You can jump in and interact with us and your fellow listeners. Good afternoon to those of you who are already in there. I see Christopher and Paul and Mark H. Joe's in. Vance is in. Great to see you guys, and look forward to seeing more of you in the live chat as we go along on this Tuesday afternoon. You can also text the program at 785-272-9429. That is 785-272-9429, where a texter from the 913 has asked me if Patrick Reed plays for Andy Mahomes. Yes, that is correct.
That is very funny. By the way, we'll get to Rams Vikes in a little bit. Sam Darnold getting cooked in the YouTube chat right now.
Yeah, he is.
Darnold had some Elvis Gerbach vibes to him last night. That's from Joe. Paul says McDonald's over 99 billion served. McDarnold over 99 billion yards lost.
Owned.
McDarnold is brutal.
Darnold is never going to recover from that. I thought it was bad enough I saw him referred to in multiple places. Really the last weekend change, because he wasn't very good in week 18 either. People just calling him same Darnold. As in, look, he had a nice year, but he's the same guy.
Yeah,
he's same Darnold.
Same guy, good coach.
Yeah. That's really the separating difference. There's no question about that. Anyhow, I want to get into the Chiefs and looking back at their divisional round history, the divisional round of the playoffs. This is obviously the 7th straight year that the Chiefs have been to the divisional round. They are 6-0 in these games with Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback. To sum up briefly how those games have gone, back in 2018, Chiefs were 4-point favorites against the Colts, beat the hell out of the Colts, 31-13. They had the bye week before that, crushed the Colts. There were a lot of people going into that game thought the Colts were going to beat the Chiefs. I remember that was before the Chiefs had broken the home playoff game curse, I believe. They had not won a home playoff game in something like 25 years at the time, and there was a lot of talk that Colts team was going to come to Arrowhead. They had been playing really good football and beat the Chiefs, and that is decisively not what happened. 2019, Chiefs were 10-point favorites against the Texans, fell behind 24-0, covered anyway. One of the damnedest games I've ever seen in my life. That's the one almost, I guess I can't say more than the 13 seconds game. There have been a lot of memorable divisional round games for these Chiefs, but that's the one that will always stand out to me as the, like, Patrick Mahomes can do anything. That was the moment where I just believed that anything that could be done, he would do. When they beat the Texans 51-31. What was it? It wasn't 51 unanswered. It was like
it might have been 44.
Yeah,
I mean, they fell behind by a ton, and then that's one of the more incredible games I think I've ever seen. I was at the regular season game, and I remember it looked super disjointed, and the end of the game had some chicanery, and the Chiefs blew it. And I thought, I don't know, this one might be tough, and certainly thought that after the first quarter. But I can tell you right now, the Chiefs fell down 21-0 in the first quarter, 24-0 4 minutes into the second quarter. And after going down 24-0, they surged out to a 41-24 lead. They scored 41 unanswered.
41 unanswered.
The Texans would score one more touchdown when the nasty man ran for a score, 24 seconds left in the third. The Chiefs then scored 10 more in the fourth quarter to put it away.
Eric Fisher did the Stone Cold Steve Austin with the beers. You got beer from a fan there after one of them.
Travis Kelce caught 3 touchdowns in one quarter in this game.
Yeah, he did.
Damian Williams also ran for 3 touchdowns.
What a crazy game. Chiefs were favored and covered and won big. 2020, Chiefs were 7.5-point favorites against the Browns. That's the anything is possible game after Mahomes got concussed. Chiefs won that game by 5, 22-17. 2021, Chiefs were 2-point favorites against the Bills. That's the 13 seconds game. They won. They covered in overtime. 2022, Chiefs were 9-point favorites against Jacksonville. Mahomes got hurt in that one, turned the ankle over. Chad Henne had to come in again. And what did he lead? A 99-yard touchdown drive?
Something like that.
I think it was I think it was a 99-yard touchdown drive. Now I got to go check. Now I'm mad. Chiefs, Jags, divisional playoff.
I've got you. I've got it here.
Yeah, it was 12-play 98-yard drive. That Henne threw a touchdown pass to Kelsey at the end of that actually extended the lead.
Yes.
That the Chiefs had at the time. Yeah, they didn't cover, but they did win the game 27-20. Last year, Chiefs were 2.5-point favorites, or rather 2.5-point dogs at Buffalo, and they won that game. The Chiefs right now are sitting at about 8-point favorites. That's the current line at Prairie Band Sportsbook. That's about the consensus 8.5-point favorites against the Texans. So, a couple of things here that are commonalities. The only times the Chiefs did not cover the spread in the divisional round, games in which Mahomes was injured and had to leave for a portion of the game. The Chiefs now are playing a team for the 5th time in 7 divisional rounds that they already played in the regular season. And the Chiefs improved upon the regular season result 3 of those times. In 2019, they had lost to the Texans by 7. They beat them by 20. In 2021, the Bills blew them out in the regular season, lost by 18. They won that game in overtime. 2022, the Chiefs beat the Jaguars by 10 at I think that game was at Arrowhead in the regular season. And they only won by 7 in the rematch. But again, Mahomes got hurt, had to leave that game. And then the Chiefs lost to the Bills last season in the regular season, lost by 3, end up winning by 3 in the playoffs. So not only are the Chiefs winning by as much as they're expected to win by unless Mahomes gets hurt, they're also improving upon the first meeting unless Mahomes gets hurt. So that's, I think, interesting and telling about how prepared that the coaching staff gets the Chiefs to play a team a second time. Throwing divisional games out, because divisional games are a different animal. You play a team that you have seen already in the regular season in the playoffs. For the Chiefs to perform at a higher level, be more ready, if you want to call it that, be more prepared the second time. Testament to a coaching staff that we already know does really well with ample time to prepare. Andy Reid's record after a bye week, all-time, 34-7. That includes the postseason. That includes Super Bowls. And when his team has a rest advantage, a preparation advantage, the Chiefs have a bye and the team they're playing does not, or an Andy Reid team, rather, has a bye and the opponent does not, Andy Reid is 30-3 all time in those games.
That's nuts. It is funny that of those 7 losses, 2 of them are in Super Bowls.
Yeah. 2 of them are in Super Bowls. Once was when he was the coach of the Eagles, and once was the Chiefs-Eagles game last year.
Yeah. That's pretty funny.
When they both had a bye. So 30-3 when Andy Reid's got a bye, an extra week to prepare for an opponent that the opponent does not at least physically have to prepare for them. And that's one of the big reasons I think you can go into Saturday with a lot of confidence when you assess the Chiefs and how they enter this game. Number one, they take care of business in this round. Not only are they 6-0, again, they're 4-2 to the spread, and the only times they didn't cover, Mahomes got injured. Number two, they have had no problem against teams they have already seen, and in fact have reversed regular season losses 3 times at this stage. And only 2 of those instances did they have the benefit of a bye week before that. Remember, 2021, they had to play the wild card round game against the Steelers. That was a functional bye, but they had to play. And then last year, of course, they had the miserable cold weather game against the Dolphins. Quick aside, did you see the feature on that on ESPN.com today?
I did not.
Elizabeth Merrill wrote a feature 1 year later, 1 year since the Chiefs-Dolphins game, the 4th coldest game in the history of the NFL, with some really wild quotes from people who played in the game. Terrion Armstead, the left tackle for the Dolphins, referred to it as borderline inhumane. And there were Chiefs players that didn't have frostbite, but they had like the stage before frostbite.
Yeah.
Obviously, there were a lot of fans who really went through it and had some frostbite that they had to deal with. And wild story. And I hope that the lesson you take away if you do read that story today is listen to your old pal and former host of this program, Jake LeBon. Bring cardboard to stand on if you're going to go to a cold weather game, for starters. And make sure you got the moisture wicking layer. Make sure you got the wetsuit if you're going to be outside that long in that kind of climate. Anyhow, it's worth a read. Elizabeth Merrill over at ESPN.com today. Anyhow, so I think that's interesting. And I also think it's interesting when we go through the list of teams that the Chiefs have beaten in the divisional round, how many of those teams have not been the same after all that happened? The Colts
lost in the wilderness
2018, and they've only been in one postseason game since. Jeff Howe laid all this out in an article today at The Athletic. The Colts lost in the 2018 playoffs, one playoff game since. The Texans fired 3 coaches in their next 3 seasons after they lost to them in 2019. The Browns missed the playoffs in 2021, so then they decided to make the Deshaun Watson trade, and now they're a mess. Obviously, not a divisional round game, but the Dolphins losing last year to the Chiefs kind of helped to throw them off course a little bit. They were already kind of charting a little bit off course, but they obviously missed the playoffs this year. So the Chiefs wreck people in this round, and they have this history that should make you feel really comfortable. I think that at this stage of the week, it's Tuesday. You just heard from Andy Reid earlier today. He talked about the health of his team. Everybody was at practice today. They didn't have to hold anybody back. There was nobody who was a DNP. That means Jalen Watson was a practice participant today. Everybody went. Now, we don't have the full participation report yet, but everybody was a go, at least on the practice field for the Chiefs. Healthy, rested, around where they always come ready to play. I think the confidence level, I say all of this to say, Brendan, that the confidence level right now, I think for the Chiefs, I think if you're a Chiefs fan, ought to be pretty high.
I mean, realistically, why wouldn't the Chiefs be extremely confident? Like, if you play for this franchise and you've been around, why wouldn't you feel confidence going into this game? If you're specifically the veteran Hall of Fame inner circle core guys, obviously you do because you've been through this so many times. But, I mean, even if you're Jalen Watson, you're coming back from injury. Maybe you have some concerns, him specifically, about playing on the injured leg. But, I mean, all things considered, we know what we're doing. I've done nothing in my entire career but win Super Bowls if I'm Jalen Watson.
Yeah.
Rookie year, won it. Last year, as a really a bit player and a special teamer, won it.
There are guys on that team who usually win the Super Bowl.
Like, I've been through that preparation if I'm them. I know exactly what that's like. So I wouldn't have any sort of worry about it. The only guys you wonder about, like, are the lights going to be too bright for DeAndre Hopkins?
No.
Are the lights going to be too bright for Josh Uche, who's never playing in this game anyway? Like, that's all you're worried about. I mean, it's all about the structure. It is all about the continuity. That's why the Chiefs do what they do in August in St. Joe to get ready for this. It is always the same, and you commit to that. You commit to the plan. You rely on the plan working, and you're going to get what you want out of it. There's no reason any guy on this team should have any lack of confidence for any reason.
Mitch Holthus likes to point out the record of players on the roster in playoff games and how many playoff wins are on this roster and how many of the playoff losses that are on this roster currently are to the Chiefs. Like, Jawan Taylor has a playoff loss. I think that's the only one on the starting offensive line, other than Tooney's got a couple probably from his time with the Patriots. But Jawan Taylor's playoff losses to the Chiefs. So, you have a group of players who expect success, who know what success is like, and know how to be prepared for success coming off of particularly a first-round playoff bye. I expect this team to be loaded for bear. I expect I expect as good a performance as we've seen all season from the Chiefs coming up this Saturday against the Texans. We'll take a timeout here, step aside for our first break. When we come back, a word about last night's NFC wildcard game and a word about a quarterback who some people are saying cost himself a lot of money last night. I am not going to go that far with Sam Darnold, but we'll talk about that. We got Random Question Tuesday coming up. Lots more to get to on the program today. We're just getting started on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. .334 on 580 Sports Talk. Just getting started on this Tuesday afternoon. Final spot in the divisional playoffs was secured last night by the Los Angeles Rams, who throttled the Minnesota Vikings 27-9 at State Farm Stadium in Glendale. Thank you, Arizona. Baby brain.
I was about to say dad brain there.
Yeah. Good crowd. I'll tell you that was pretty impressive. There are a lot of people in that building last night.
Well, man, I told you this was going to be more of a home game for the Rams being outside LA.
Well, I heard the Rams bust a bunch of people in.
Smart.
I don't know if it's their season ticket holders that were still in the LA area or what, but they bust like 6 bus loads in.
So the Vikings, 14-3 regular season. They go from going into Week 18 with a chance for the number 1 seed to not even making it out of the wild card round in a 2-week span. And it is cause for a little bit more reevaluation of Sam Darnold, who is a player that, to be frank, we all kind of thought stunk coming into 2024 and was only in Minnesota to be a transitional quarterback for J.J. McCarthy. And then McCarthy needed knee surgery, and Darnold quarterback to 14-win team this season.
Mhm.
And Minnesota's got a decision to make regarding Darnold. Let me just say this as far as I'm concerned with Sam Darnold. I think if your goal is to be good, Sam Darnold can get you to good. His best can get you to good. His best has to be unlocked by the right coach. Certainly doesn't hurt that I think Kevin O'Connell is really good at his job.
Agreed.
And he's got two outstanding wide receivers, including one of the best, if not the best in football, in Justin Jefferson. I kind of think Jamar Chase took the belt this year.
Hard to argue with the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, Joe Burrow versus Sam Darnold.
This is true. This is true. Justin Jefferson, Jefferson's a great player. Jordan Addison's really good. TJ Hawkinson's a good player too. Like they got weapons and they got a good head coach. And if you plug Sam Darnold into a situation like that, you'd be good with Sam Darnold.
Oh yeah,
you can go 14-3 with Sam Darnold. If the goal is to win anything of substance, you are not doing that with Sam Darnold.
No,
like we used to joke, we used to call it the car line, right? The line of demarcation below which you cannot win anything meaningful. Like your quarterback has to be at least this good. Called it the car line because we thought Derek Carr was the line. I mean, I've heard the Prescott line. Maybe it's the Kyler Murray line. Like whatever your line of demarcation is, I think we can agree that Sam Darnold is somewhere below that line of demarcation. I actually think the line has moved a lot higher, and that's not because quarterback play has gotten worse. That's just because Patrick Mahomes is alive. Like, I think the line now, it's not the Carr line. It might be the Burrow line at this point.
Oh man.
I think if your quarterback isn't better than Joe Burrow, you are not winning a Super Bowl in the Mahomes era.
I would agree.
I think it's lower than that.
It might be. I might not be being charitable enough.
I think I would move it a little bit closer to like the Love Stroud line. I think if you get the CJ Stroud we saw as a rookie, you can win a championship. I think if you get the Jordan Love we saw during Toyotathon this year or for most of last season, I think you can win a Super Bowl with that guy. But beneath that, like, who's next after that? Purdy? Might be Purdy. By the way, fun fact about Brock Purdy. So Skylar Thompson today,
yes.
K-State great.
Yes.
He was let go from the practice squad of the Dolphins recently. He signed on with the Steelers on a futures contract. There is now one quarterback drafted in 2022 that is still with their original team, and it's Brock Purdy.
That's wild.
One quarterback. All year, it was just Brock Purdy and Skyler.
Did you know that Skyler is now the only quarterback signed on the Broncos or not the Broncos Steelers roster?
Yeah. The only one with
a long-term contract.
Somebody that worked in the same market as where I went to college. She now works at KDKA in Pittsburgh, and Tomlin's presser was today, and she was posting stuff, and Tomlin said, quarterback, obviously that's got to be something we're going to be heavy into this offseason because we don't have one on the roster. We don't have one under contract.
Well, now they do.
That is pretty funny.
They got Skylar Thompson, who has started a playoff game.
I will say
Justin Fields hasn't done that.
I will say this about Darnold. That's true. I love to remind Bears fans of that. Would be to trade their first round pick for JJ McCarthy and probably like a fourth too or something. Because long-term option, it's better than anyone you could get in the draft this year.
Yeah. Go
trade a pick for JJ McCarthy. They will be signing Sam Darnold to a 1-year deal.
You think it's the Steelers?
Sam Darnold is going to Pittsburgh. I'll call my shot. Yeah.
I think he goes to the Jets.
Paul in the YouTube live chat is of the same mind, says 49ers don't want to pay Purdy, sign Darnold for cheaper, and Purdy goes to Pittsburgh.
You know, the funny thing, Sam Darnold was Purdy's backup last year.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think he can go to the Jets. Like, if I'm Sam Darnold, I'm not picking up that phone call. I know there's only 32 starting jobs in the league. That one's not worth it to me.
Here's what I know about Sam Darnold. I think somebody is going to sign him to, and it might not be a long-term deal. It might be like what the Geno Smith deal looked like after his year where he started with Seattle. I think he signed like a 2-year deal, maybe an option for a third, maybe something like that. I think he's going to get that money. I just would hate to root for the team that's going to give it to him because you are damning yourself to a ceiling that is not high enough to get real excited because we just saw a team go 14-3 And in any other year, that might have been the number 1 seed.
And it was the same thing that happens every single time when you start to believe in Sam Darnold. And oh yeah, it's the guy who
he's a fraud.
Who we always knew. See, I don't think he's a fraud. I think to be like, I don't think Sam Darnold is a fraud because I think everybody.
I mean it in a way of you look at his season this year and be like, oh yeah, he's come back down to earth.
Well, sure, and that's definitely fair. But I think everyone kind of expected at some point the clock was going to strike midnight, right?
Yeah.
Like no one truly thought like, he's back. They have fixed him completely. They have completely changed everything.
He's the prince who was promised.
That's the funny thing about JJ McCarthy is that we have not seen Kevin O'Connell yet with a quarterback that he developed. This is only his 3rd year as a head coach. He's done a good job with Cousins. Yeah. He did a good job this year with Darnold. We haven't seen him actually with a guy he developed yet, which I think is going to be, who already has good coaching from Harbaugh. I think that's going to be fascinating with JJ McCarthy in Minnesota. For Darnold, like, he is what he is. And if you can tap into it, great. If you have a strong structure and a good coach in general, like, honestly, I think Pittsburgh, you could do worse than Arthur Smith calling plays for him.
Yes.
Darnold is not afraid to throw over the middle.
No.
Which, honestly, will probably help him have an okay year. He's not a bad quarterback, but you're exactly right, Dan. You will never win anything that you're not going to put out a DVD of any season Sam Darnold started for your team.
The lasting lesson, I think, of this season for Sam Darnold is so much of what a quarterback can be is based on what's around him. And if you've got a guy that you think was coming out of college and they've got all the tools or, all the measurables are really good or you feel like they're a natural leader, hope that they end up in a good situation because it is a nurture over nature argument, I think, when it comes to quarterbacks.
I should also add the other point I wanted to make really quickly. They got pressure on him all night. Sacks are a quarterback stat, and some of that's on Darnold for eating 9 sacks last night. They were beating the crap out of that offensive line. Mm-hmm. That was the best Rams game, I think, the entire season. That line, it's worse than it had been because you don't just replace Aaron Donald. But Kobe Turner's really good. Jared Verse is awesome. That dude rules. And that's good because I thought he was going to be really good. And he is. I don't get the draft right a lot. I got that one, though. They've got some real pieces on that defense. And if they play like that, they can beat anybody.
Last night, they looked like a team that can win the NFC.
I agree.
Yeah.
They absolutely can.
We'll take a timeout. We come back with a little Random Question Tuesday. That is coming up next here on 580 Sports Talk. Random question Tuesday here on 580 Sports Talk. We'll borrow one from the text line to start. 785 texter asks, it's a sports question, but it's still a random question. If you were the Chiefs, who'd you rather play, the Bills or the Ravens? I think that's an easy answer because I don't think the Chiefs are afraid of anybody, and there's not like an obvious better matchup between those two teams. They want their lick back. They want to play the Bills. They want to play the team that beat them, and they want to beat them again.
Yeah, but they barely beat the Ravens. A foot.
But they beat them.
See, if we're talking matchup here, I also think it's extremely easy, and I think you'd rather play Baltimore.
Yeah.
I know Lamar had an incredible year, and you never yes, please give me the MVP. He threw 4 picks all year. Chiefs are great against the run. Okay, yes, Lamar can beat us through the air. That is absolutely possible. I don't also want Derrick Henry to destroy me on the ground. And the Chiefs are really good against the run. Yeah. I think I'd rather have that matchup because the Bills can also run the ball well, and they can also throw it well. Both teams can do both well, but Baltimore can be so devastating on the ground. I'd want to remove that from the equation if I could.
You got a random question today?
Random question for me today. What's the hardest you've ever hit your head?
Hardest I've ever hit my head.
Ooh.
Okay, so it's funny that it's taking us a long time to think about that.
This segment is brought to you by the film Concussion.
So in my freshman dorm, you know how you could bunk your bed over your desk?
Loft it, yeah.
Yeah, you could loft your bed.
Yeah, I did it, yeah.
So yeah, I had a lofted bed my freshman year of college. And I did one of those things where I tried to come all the way out into a standing position too soon, and I cracked my forehead, bam, right on the side panel. And I put my hand up to my head, damn, that hurt. I looked down, I was bleeding.
Oh,
yeah, I did a blade job like Ric Flair in the old WWF days, and so I had to walk across campus with my hand over my head.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure I looked great. I'm sure that was quite a sight. But I had to walk across campus, get to the health center, and I didn't have to stitches or anything. I just
that's good.
Busted myself open a little bit. So that would be my answer.
You have one?
I don't remember how it happened, but I did have when I was a kid, I did something. I think I fell or something. I on a bike or something. I had a big welt on my head.
I can understand why you didn't remember it.
Yeah.
Probably
the first time I felt I was concussed.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Yeah, I hit my head on the floor during a volleyball game. Got a concussion.
Yeah, that'll do it. I've never been verifiably concussed, though. I think when I got in my car wreck, I was concussed.
Probably, yeah. Whiplash.
Oh, yeah, the car did roll 6 times. So yeah, I probably was a little dinged. But anyway, you got a random question today, Spence?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Upcoming move here in a month and a day. We're moving to a townhouse.
Okay.
What is the hardest part about packing for a move?
Doing it.
Yeah. All of it?
All of it, yeah.
No, I would say the hardest thing. What's your book situation? You have a lot of books?
Olivia does.
Okay. I have a lot of books. And moving the
many leather-bound books.
Yes, they smell of rich mahogany. Yes, they do. So packing the books, because you got to be strategic about it. Otherwise, those boxes get too heavy to move, right?
Yeah.
You can't move too many of them at once. So that is a hard part. Also, packing kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
Packing up plates and wrapping your silverware and then making sure that gets into the big kitchen pack.
Yeah. That's a lot. I was just going to say even getting started. Don't know where to get started.
Paul says hardest part of packing, unpacking.
Yeah. Yeah. Knowing where to start is a good answer, Spencer. I would also say the cleaning out part of packing.
Yes.
Do we actually need to bring this along? That part is hard.
Yeah.
I'm not a hoarder by any means, but I definitely do well, what if I need this at some point? That was hard for me.
Yeah, I've done it a lot. I've done it probably more than any of you guys have. I've lived in a lot of different places, true. But I've done it a lot, and it was never fun. It was never a time where it was an enjoyable process.
After you moved out of your parents' house, what's the longest you've lived in the same dwelling?
Longest I lived in the same dwelling? Probably my apartment in Nebraska. I think I made it to, I made it by a couple of months over the apartment I was living in here in Topeka before I moved out of that one.
Okay. Yeah.
And eventually it'll be the house I live in now, which will be nice.
Well, yeah, that will be nice. My place in Lawrence, easily. I was there for 7+ years.
Couple
Jeez.
from the text line from the 785. My son took a foul ball off his helmet as a catcher and got concussed, and it broke the helmet. Yeesh.
Yikes.
Also from the 615. Hardest I ever hit my head when the Chiefs hired Herm Edwards.
Hello. That's great.
A lot of
That's
coaches
funny.
wouldn't want to score a touchdown in that situation.
I was opposite.
I
can't believe Arizona State did that. Still to this day, unbelievable.
Incredibly funny. And now they hired a real football coach and they made the college football playoff.
Wow.
What do you know?
The sleeping giant has been awoken.
Consider Arizona State. We'll take a timeout, come back, wrap up this hour of 580 Sports Talk. .356 on 580 Sports Talk. A good word of advice for Spencer and anybody else contemplating a move. Text from the 785. When we move, we ask this question. If there's poop on the item, would I clean it or throw it away? We got rid of a lot of stuff. That would probably... See, that might be the end of every one of our kitchen utensils. I just have to buy an entirely new kitchen.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no, that's probably true. Although, I'll be honest with you, having now had a newborn for 6 weeks, I'm far less phased by poop than ever
little
before.
less squeamish about poop than you used to be. Yeah,
down under my nails.
That's
oh well.
real. Yeah, well, I guess I'll wash my hands. Yeah, that's the number one thing I thought I was just going to be like distraught, just wanted to avoid at all costs. Every morning, my son wakes up having just voided his bowels, and it's like, all right, well,
it just is what it is.
Keep your feet out of it, big guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Stop kicking.
Please stop kicking. Hey, I want caller number 5 to 785-272-9429. Caller number 5 to 785-272-9429. You are caller number 5. You are going to get a pair of tickets to see Kansas State basketball tonight. If you're able to make it out to Bramlage Coliseum, you want to see the Cats take on Texas Tech, caller number 5 gets the pair of tickets. That's 785-272-9429. Caller number 5, 785-272-9429. 2 tickets to see K-State and Texas Tech in men's basketball tonight. Coming up in the next hour, 580 Sports Talk, we got What Is Wrong With You. We got Jayhawk Weekly with Michael Swain. And we're going to revisit our preseason NFL quarterback rankings, the good, the bad, and the ugly on 580 Sports Talk.
low at 5 above. Good deal of sunshine coming our way for Wednesday with our high near the freezing mark. And clear Wednesday night to low at 20. Sunshine for Thursday with our high moving up a little bit more into the upper 30s. And we actually get into some low to mid 40s by Friday with some sun. And then a front coming in. Cloudy Saturday, the high upper 20s. And Sunday's high 15. I'm meteorologist Stephanie Ramon from the Capital Federal Weather Center.
Stay connected with the voice of Kansas, WIBW.
Let's get it. Hour number 2, 580 Sports Talk on this chilly Tuesday afternoon in the capital city of Kansas. The gang's all here. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzynski, Spencer Dupuis, rocking with you on this Tuesday for the next 2 hours on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online, 580WIBW.com, and on our video stream. You can watch us on YouTube. Our channel is 580 Sports Talk. You can watch us at Facebook at WIBW News. You can interact with us in the live chat. You don't have to say nice things about us, but we appreciate when you do. You interact with us and with other listeners to the show as it goes on live. You can also text the program. 785-272-9429 is that text line, 785-272-9429.
Just remember, if you say something mean, you are well within your legal right to do it. However, Santa Claus is always watching.
Yes.
Just because it is now past December does not mean that the naughty and nice lists are not being populated as we speak.
Also, a thing we can do is we can put listeners in timeout, which is a feature I didn't really realize that we had. So if you were to post something like Christopher, say that Dan Lucero is a real so-and-so, I could click a button that says put user in timeout. And you
can also click a button that says ban user.
Yes, I can also ban a user, but I'm not going to do that. Christopher's our guy. We're not going to do that. We're not going to put him in timeout either. We're just kidding. But that is the thing we could do. But again, it would be funny though. We appreciate everybody saying anything in the live chat. We appreciate. It's really fun to see that little community has grown there in the YouTube live chat, and it's fun to monitor it throughout the program. As we go along. Great way to interact with each other and interact with us on the show if you're watching on the YouTube stream. Again, the channel is 580 Sports Talk. We're up to 711 subscribers.
Shout out to the Gilliland family.
Yes. Shout out to 711 subscribers and 7-Eleven for inventing the Slurpee.
Always open.
Always open.
Where are there in Topeka? Any?
No.
Nope. Got to go to Overland Park.
Is that
or
ridiculous?
Denver?
Is that the nearest?
Ridiculous.
The nearest one is Overland Park. There's not one in Lawrence? Why
No.
did I think there was one in Lawrence? Is there QT in Lawrence?
Yeah, there's two
Okay.
QTs in Lawrence.
Yeah.
One over by Haskell and then one right by the interstate.
Apparently, there's a 7-Eleven in Holton.
Yeah,
right.
there is.
And
It's right by the Taco Bell.
Yeah.
There's also one in Leavenworth.
Well,
Well,
that's
that's
closer
close.
than Overland Park.
That is farther than Overland Park. Yeah. I guess I did forget there is the one in Holton. But yeah, there's nothing else close by.
Shout out to the Holton 7-Eleven. I've never made a 30-minute road trip one way to go get a Slurpee, but
I might.
giving it some thought.
I do love a good Slurpee. Favorite
Man.
Slurpee flavor? Extended Random Question Tuesday?
Wow.
Coca-Cola.
You know, you can't beat the classics, Coke and cherry, and
Yeah.
sometimes mixing the two together.
Yeah.
But y'all remember when they had the Surge Slurpee?
No.
That
have energy
maybe
in
I'm
it?
maybe I'm dating myself.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like I was
Spencer,
alive for it.
Do you
but-
remember Surge?
No.
Okay. The Surge was like crazy caffeinated Mountain Dew. It wasn't marketed as an energy drink. It was soda, but it was like
Highly caffeinated.
the whole thing was highly caffeinated. Like more caffeine than Mountain Dew, not as much as like Jolt. So
Yeah.
like if you were a kid, you could still have it. That was the thing, man, in middle school. It was cool to have Surge.
Yeah, the 7-Eleven is just north of the Red Roof Inn of Holton and the Taco Bell. So if you're really needing it, by the way, the answer is either green or sour apple.
Sour
Ugh,
apple.
ugh,
Oh, yeah.
ugh,
A
that sounds
sour
disgusting.
apple Slurpee?
Oh, it's so good.
Man, absolutely not.
I haven't had one of those in, God, a decade and a half probably. They're delicious, though.
Ah, man, I remember when I was a kid, there was a year where they gave away like these little holographic like baseball player pogs. at the
Nice.
bottom of each cup of Slurpee.
Oh my, yes, I got Roger Clemens.
I have like 21 of the 30 that they produced. My mom still has them. My mom, God bless her. I don't know how much stuff your parents have thrown out. My mom saved pretty much everything that I have wanted to save, and keeps reminding me, you have a house now. Like, just because I got a house doesn't mean I got anywhere to put this stuff.
Yeah.
See, I did not collect the baseball player Pogs. I did collect, however, the SummerSlam cups. They were the presenting sponsor of SummerSlam for a few years. I remember the 09 edition had Kofi Kingston on the cup. That might still be at my parents' house.
Christopher asked when we're going to get a QT in Topeka. I do like the quick trip. I like QT. I lived in Wichita for a couple of years. QT was walkable from my apartment.
My wife loves QT. My wife loves the snackies or whatever they call them. Snackums, snookums, whatever they call their little snackles.
Never been to a QT's.
Yeah, I mean,
because there's never been one near me.
Now, see,
Snackle, yeah.
Now, I'm going to point something out here real quick. Spencer is taking strongly to the Midwest. We're a little farther south in the Midwest. Upper Midwestern moment just now. He called it the QTs. Yeah, I've never been to a QT's. That's a very like Chicago, Wisconsin, Minnesota thing.
Okay.
Jewel Osco, big grocery store up there. But you went to the Jewel, okay? That like people talk Aldi. Yes. Up north, it's Aldi's.
Yeah,
we went to Aldi's.
Pluralizing. I think we just had this discussion not long ago. Pluralizing things, and maybe it was just me on the show at the time. This might have been late December. You guys were both gone, and I mentioned that yes, referring to something as the something is a tick that I've started to adopt. I refer to the Dylans a lot.
Yep, the Dylans. The Hy-Vee.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, there is only one Hy-Vee in Topeka.
The Hy-Vee in Topeka is the Hy-Vee.
The Sam's Club.
Yes, but there are multiple Dylans. And at least I haven't gotten to the point, like my dad will say if he wants to go get like a sandwich at a place that used to be famous for the $5 footlong, he will say, let's go to the Subways. And that's a double dip.
I love that. That's awesome.
The unnecessary pluralizing and the.
See, but if you do that, then I think you can get around copyright law.
Yeah.
Or trademark law.
I guess that's true.
I can talk about the Subways.
I don't know, but none of these convenience stores beat the Sheetz.
See,
I've never been to a Sheetz or a Wawa for that matter.
Sheetz and Wawa is the
Sheetz, Wawa, Royal Farms.
I've never even heard of Royal Farms.
That's
a new one on me.
Like where you get milk.
It's a Maryland thing. Justin Tucker's been sponsored by them for a couple years now.
Real quick, we had one. It was bought out by 7-Eleven. But when I grew up, we had something called White Hen, okay, in the greater Chicagoland area. I don't know what the best sandwich you guys have ever had is, but it's not better than a sandwich you could get at the White Hen. Also, the White Hen. Delicious. Best gas station donuts ever, too. Ooh. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so, like, I knew that I had been fully converted to being a Midwesterner when I downloaded the app for Casey's. Because I lived in Nebraska for 3.5-4 years, and we had a Casey's. I had never heard of Casey's before I moved to Nebraska. And there was a Casey's right next door to our radio stations in North Platte, Nebraska. And there were people in that town who would tell me with a straight face, they got the best pizza in town. Casey's has the best pizza in town. And the way I used to roll my eyes, come on, dog. You're not telling me a gas station got better pizza than like a local pizza place. Come on, be real. Valentino's, like, come on. This was even pre like Domino's remaking itself. I was like, come on, you're not getting better. Come on, there's no way a pizza place has better pizza or a gas station has better pizza than a pizza place. I'm a convert now. Like Casey's pizza's really good.
That stuff's delicious.
that was.
I've yet to try any.
You got to try it.
All right, real quick. Favorite Casey of all time.
Favorite Casey, Stengel.
I don't have a favorite Casey.
I am going to go
Casey Toohill.
Quarterback, right?
No, defensive end.
Defensive end. I am going to go with spelled that way, Casey. I'm going to go with Blake or Sean Casey. Spelled differently, Musgraves.
Over Jared.
Jared Casey is a good one. Yeah, I'd go. All right, I'll give Jared the nod. I'm going to miss Jared Casey.
One correction. A texter from the 75 correcting the record that Surge actually had less caffeine than Mountain Dew, but Surge had the clout of being highly caffeinated. Yeah, that was the thing. They sold it to us, impressionable teens and preteens in the late 90s, as being the more caffeinated alternative to Mountain Dew.
Surge. Yeah,
it was awesome.
They brought it back a couple of years ago.
Mark H in the YouTube comments asked, "How did you get onto this topic?" Great question. Great question. Let's move on, shall we? Coming up later on this hour, we got What Is Wrong With You? Story, by the way. And we got Jayhawk Weekly coming up as well with Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. But I wanted to revisit our preseason quarterback rankings. We were talking yesterday. I thought about this because we were talking about Jaden Daniels yesterday. I'm going to get that confused forever. Jaden Daniels has played his way into the hierarchy of, at the very least, quarterbacks who scare you to death. Like right now, he is on that list of guys who absolutely frighten you, where if your team is playing against the team with that guy on it, you think, oh, man, that guy could beat us by himself. He does enough cool football stuff, makes enough big throws, can do enough with his legs. He is terrifying. He is maybe where early career Lamar Jackson was, kind of on that scale a little bit, with maybe at least a better reputation as a passer than early career Lamar Jackson had, even though I don't necessarily think that was all that fair. Anyway, back on August 9th on the program, and you can dig this up. It's in our podcast archives, 580WIBW.com, or on our YouTube archive, 580 Sports Talk is the channel. We ranked the NFL quarterbacks going into this season, and we gave our top 10 list. We also had our next 5 and our bottom 5, but we did our top 10 list. And unsurprisingly, all of us had Patrick Mahomes at the top of the list. That was where things started to differ. Our top 4 were all the same 4 guys. I had Mahomes number 1, Josh Allen number 2, Lamar number 3, Joe Burrow number 4. Brendan had Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Jackson. Spencer, looking prescient, was the only one to have the eventual MVP second behind Mahomes. He went Mahomes, Jackson, Allen, Burrow. Knowing now what we know, any regrets about that top 4? Or is that pretty clearly to borrow a very tired sports talk trope, is that the Mount Rushmore in the NFL right now?
No, that's still the same group. And I don't even really have any beef with how I ranked them either, to be honest. Like, Lamar Jackson's incredible. Josh Allen also, he's going to finish second in the MVP voting. And Joe Burrow, if his team's defense was not utter garbage, he might have finished first or second in MVP voting. Like, you cannot go wrong with any of those 4 guys. Whatever flavor you like the best, he's that guy, or that one is that guy. So no, I've got no qualms with it, to be honest with you.
I like so I just went back and found, I have it in my notes, my whole 1 to 32.
Yeah.
I like my top half.
Okay. We're talking about the top 4 right now.
I know, but I'm saying, like, my back half a disaster.
All right. So Burrow to me is interesting because we had talked a couple of weeks ago about how Burrow got a ton of credit for that 2021 season, where like he was the quarterback that emerged from that postseason looking the best, like with the best reputation, with the most improvement to his reputation, even though his team did not in fact win the Super Bowl. That went to of course Matthew Stafford's Rams. Burrow has also now improved his reputation in a season in which his team did not make the playoffs. So I think the way we talk about Joe Burrow is interesting. That is not to say that we're wrong evaluating his ability, but it is interesting how his reputation has gotten a boost in a situation where I do not think we would be as kind to his peers. Like if Mahomes had a year that was the statistical equal to Burrow and he missed the playoffs, I think his rep would take a hit. And that's probably because the standard for him is so high. But I even think for a guy like Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, let those guys miss the playoffs, even with MVP caliber numbers, and I think their reputations would take a hit. Burrow's reputation actually improved this year. And I don't think that's a knock. I don't think it's anything against Joe Burrow. I just think it's interesting how we talk about Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I think that's entirely fair, but it is true. Like, he was awesome this year. Yes. The numbers are crazy. The offense is not the problem. But yeah, it is interesting. It also tells you that it is a 53-man game and a dozens of coaches game and a front office game and a structural integrity of the organization kind of game, because all those other teams are better at all those things than the Bengals are.
We had differences starting at number 5 overall. Both of you, Brendan, Spencer, had Justin Herbert as your number 5 quarterback at the time. I had Brock Purdy. I jumped off the porch with that Brock Purdy take. I felt like, look, man, we are picking nits about all these guys, and all these guys in the league have not won, I mean, at the level that Brock Purdy had won coming into this year, going to back-to-back conference championship games. Whose reputation took a bigger hit this year, Purdy or Herbert? Because
I think it's hard to say Purdy's did because he didn't have all his weapons the entire year.
For that reason, I think the answer is Brock Purdy. Because he didn't have his weapons and he looked like an average quarterback.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
Like, I don't think Brock Purdy is as bad as he has been made out to be in the last month. But that being said, the knock at first, right, when he came up and had that great run at the start of his career was, well, yeah, but he's got Deebo Samuel before Deebo got fat.
Yeah,
he's got Brandon Ayuk. He's got George Kittle.
Yeah.
He's got Christian McCaffrey. He's got all these dudes. Like, yeah, of course he's going to look good. Then he played legitimately independently really well. And then all of a sudden those guys disappeared and, oh, yeah, wait a minute. We all thought this from the jump anyway. And it turns out,
This was a year where if you were low on Brock Purdy, your priors were confirmed. And neither of you guys had him in your top 10s.
No, I had him, like 14th or something? Yeah, I don't think he's a bad player. I think Brock Purdy is good. But I'd still probably put him behind Herbert.
I think. So the thing with Herbert is, like, you actually go and you dig into his numbers. It was not a statistically impressive season.
No, especially in the first half when he was throwing for like 212 yards a game.
So he doesn't get like the big stats bounce that like a guy like Burrow maybe does reputationally. Took great care of the ball until the playoff game. But like the questions for both guys, for both Purdy and Herbert, if you were skeptics on them before, you did not see anything this year to change your mind.
No.
And if you believed in them before, you saw some things this year, Purdy without all his weapons and Herbert in the playoff game to make you think, well, okay, maybe the skeptics are right. So that's kind of where we leave those two quarterbacks at the end. And Cameron points this out in the YouTube live chat. Thanks for joining us, Cameron, that the conversation about weapons is not dissimilar to the one we have about Joe Burrow. He's always had weapons and arguably some of the best, writes Cameron. Patrick Mahomes won a Super Bowl with no good receivers. Take weapons away, and is Joe Burrow that good? He's going to lose T. Higgins. So we're going to find out. Like, but also, T. Higgins was like iffy for a lot of the year, missed some games this year. The guys behind those two have already suffered. Like, you look at like the team that went to the Super Bowl where they had those two guys plus Tyler Boyd playing really good football, plus CJ Uzomah, who was one of the better tight ends in the league at the time. Like the early career Joe Burrow's where he really had the big weapons. He started to lose those pieces, but still produce at a high level. Now, what does he look like next year when it's Jamar Chase? And let's check Jamar again to make sure that he's looking
Andre Yoshivas.
Andre Yoshivas is good in the red zone.
He is a good red zone player. I do not think it is fair to dock a guy for only being good with weapons when that's literally all we have. Like,
yeah,
Purdy, you can understand it even going back to his college days because we all saw him volleyball spike an interception to a Clemson defensive back in the Cheez-It Bowl. Like, we all saw that happen. We knew what he was as a college player versus what he was as a pro, and it was, whoa, what the hell happened here? Like, how did he all of a sudden become this dude? Joe Burrow had the greatest wide receiver room in college football history when he was at LSU. His top two targets were Jamar Chase as a freshman? No, as a sophomore. Sophomore Jamar Chase, as well as Justin Jefferson were his top two wide receivers. Terrace Marshall was also a second-round pick. Bust, but a second-round pick. That's one of the greatest rosters of all time. And Burrow was great. Then he came to the Bengals and barely played as a rookie because of the injury, but was good in glimpses. And now has had weapons and has been great. We have literally no idea what it looks like without. No clue. So I don't think you can dock him for that. You can question it, but I don't think you can say, well, I don't think he's that good except for weapons. All we've ever seen is that.
6 through 10s for all of us, real quick. We'll run through these. My 6 through 10 in order from 6 to 10 were CJ Stroud, Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert. Brendan, your 6 through 10 were Jordan Love, CJ Stroud, Matthew Stafford, Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers. Spencer, your 6 through 10, Matthew Stafford, Jordan Love, CJ Stroud, Jalen Hurts, and Dak Prescott. Real quick, give me one quarterback you're pat yourself on the back on. One quarterback you would remove from your top 10 without hesitation right now.
I mean, I'm obviously pulling Rodgers, but I remember doing this exercise and saying, I just really don't know who to put ahead, so I'll give him the tiebreaker as the guy who's won MVPs. Yeah. That was wrong, obviously. I mean, Jordan Love ahead of CJ Stroud. I was right about that.
Yeah. But I'd say
exact ranking. I mean, Love probably closer to 10 than to 5, but better than CJ Stroud.
I would say putting Herbert as number 5.
You also nailed it. I think Stafford is not as consistent as the guys who are legitimately great, but you see it, and I hate Matt Stafford, but you see a game where he's hot and you think, whoa.
His best is outrageously good.
It is.
He doesn't get there often enough.
Exactly.
No.
That's the qualm, right?
Yeah.
Is that he doesn't always hit that mark.
So it's
when
going to
he
keep
does,
him out of the Hall of Fame.
Yes, correct. Unless they win the Super Bowl this year, in which case, begrudgingly, he will be in.
Give me a quarterback not named Jaden Daniels that you feel like you'll have in your top 10 next year.
Ooh. Let me go back and look
not named Jaden Daniels.
That you did not have in your top 10 this year that you'll have in your top 10 next year.
I will go
Bo Nix.
Penix?
Bo Nix.
Oh, Bo Nix.
That's an overcorrection because you had him, I think, 32nd.
I know. Oh, that's
is,
when I said what I said earlier. That is specifically what I was talking about. I ranked him dead last.
That's an overcorrection. There's no universe on which he is the top 10 quarterback.
I'm on the spot here. I'm trying to remember. Baker.
Yeah.
Baker's tough because I don't think Baker's going to get better at this point in his career, but he was top 5 quarterback this year.
Yeah, I would say him or
production-wise.
I would say him or Geno Smith. And the reason I would say Geno Smith and argue for my guy is they won 10 games, and Geno put up outrageous numbers behind an offensive line I genuinely believe was one of the 5 worst in the NFL, and with a play caller who just got fired after 1 year at the helm.
He did get fired.
He got no help, and he was awesome. So,
Geno's good.
Yeah.
Geno and Stafford are big, like NFL stat nerd guys. The nerds love those.
They love to watch the film on them.
Yes. Big film guy picks.
We'll re-rank the quarterbacks again come August. Like I said, now you've got a whole lot of bias going on with where the playoffs are at. So we're not going to re-rank them all yet, but we'll do that exercise again in August. We'll see where we're at. We're going to take a time out here. We come back with What Is Wrong With You on 580 Sports Talk. It's What Is Wrong With You time on 580 Sports Talk. 2 news stories today competing with the story I call Real Love. The woman that was willing to defecate in the middle of a Dollar General to distract people while her beau made off with $500 worth of cleaning products.
This one's going to be tough to beat.
Hashtag relationship goals. 2 news stories today. I'll go first. We go back to Florida, where a sheriff's deputy has resigned from his job after he crashed into a civilian's car. Former Deputy Tristan McCumber had a good excuse for crashing into that civilian's car. It actually wasn't a good excuse at all. He was looking at porno on his phone. The deputy crashed in early November of 2024 while driving south on County Road 435. His body-worn camera captured the steering wheel airbag deploying after he crashed into the back of another car. The video shows McCumber tossing a cell phone onto the seat, then picking it up before he goes to check on the other driver, probably to close out of X videos or whatever. "Hello, ma'am. Are you okay? I'm so sorry," the deputy said to the other driver. According to the new internal affairs report, the deputy told a sergeant, "Fucked up." I'm sure something did before he rear-ended the other car that stopped for a school bus.
Please don't say rear-ended.
The investigation eventually found McCumber wasn't truthful about what he was looking at on his phone right before impact. He initially stated he was scrolling through text messages in a group chat, but the investigation found he was not doing that. The report concluded that McCumber admitted to lying before later revealing he was looking at porno. Pornographic materials, what it says. I don't know if it was moving pictures or just pictures. Maybe he was reading an erotic novel.
I'm
That's a new one for me.
Best and brightest. Spencer, what's your story today?
Yes, we're going to go to Flagler County. Florida deputies said they recently arrested a Florida man on multiple charges after he attempted to steal 2 lawnmowers from Home Depot, ran from the police, and lied about his identity. The man has been identified as 42-year-old Willie Parker. No, not the former NFL player, former Steelers running back Willie Parker.
Oh, Fast Willie.
This guy wasn't fast enough.
Official reports show Parker is being charged with grand theft, trespassing, providing a false name to law enforcement, and a violation of probation. He was transported to the inmate detention centers, being held without bond. Basically, Saturday, January 11th, the deputies responded to a shoplifting incident at the Home Depot in Palm Coast. Basically, he was trying to steal these 2 lawnmowers from the store. Once the employees confronted him about it, he abandoned the lawnmowers. As he left, he then lied to police later on about it, providing a false name. So
I love these false name stories.
Yes.
They are great.
He said he gave a false name and a birthday, and when asked why he lied, Parker said, "Because I got warrants."
I mean, I got to respect it.
Yeah. Why do you lie? Because the truth would get me in a lot of trouble. Same with the porno cop, right?
So he
Yeah,
had
that's
actually
true.
been trespassed from Home Depot in 2023 as well. The kicker.
Jeez. These are good stories today.
2 good ones today.
I got to go with the porn cop, though.
Yeah.
Porn cop.
Yeah. The
Man.
nasty police.
Like,
Officer Nasty gets the win.
oh God, that's like, I don't care if you're a deputy or not. Why are you watching that while driving? Who was the NBA? Oh man, I think
You're horny, man. I don't know.
I think the NBA player who did it died.
Oh,
Not
God.
like in the act, but Adrian Griffin, didn't he? Not Adrian Griffin. The other Griffin, Eddie Griffin. Not that Eddie Griffin. Not the one from the basketball playing Eddie Griffin. I
Super
believe
Trooper.
got passed away, and he was in a car crash, and not only was watching pornography on his phone, he was participating.
Oh,
We don't know if the officer was participating,
wow.
but
Reese McGuire was smart to just park his car.
yeah, our porn cop moves on. Does he beat Real Love?
You know what? I'm actually going to say yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, because these other people were clearly degenerates anyway.
Yeah, this guy's a
This is a law
this is
enforcement
a
officer.
law enforcement. Yeah, if the woman pooping in the middle of Dollar General was a deputy, maybe it's a different story. But yeah, we'll go with porn cop. He moves on What Is Wrong With You. Michael Swain is next for Jayhawk Weekly. We are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline by Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. He joins us every Tuesday at this time for a segment we call Jayhawk Weekly because it's all about the Jayhawks. Michael covers them for Fog.net. Become a VIP subscriber to 24/7 Sports today and get Michael's outstanding insight and insider info on all things Jayhawks. Michael, KU's all of a sudden an elite defensive team. They've just wrapped up a 3-game stretch that's the best in conference play from a defensive perspective in the Bill Self era. How did this happen? How did this KU team get great on defense all of a sudden?
Yeah, I think a lot of it goes back to Shaquille Moore entering the starting lineup. You know, he was someone that, even going back to the summer, was highly thought of as a guy that could, in theory, come in and play a lot and really help KU defensively. I think Bill Self called him at one point maybe the best one-on-one defender KU had. Obviously, he had the surgery, and that really limited his ability to impact the game. And then what's happened is, since he got in the starting lineup, his minutes have gone from like 6 minutes a game up to, the low 20s. And he's someone that I think unlocks some things for KU, where DeJuan Harris now doesn't have to go and be the lead guy guarding the other team's best guard, right? You can have Shaq go and do that for 20 minutes a game, and I think for this team, energy has been a big issue, right? If you watch the West Virginia game, what was KU lacking? Energy. And if you watch the games against, Missouri or Creighton, all of them very much fit the same thing, right? KU's not a team that can play lackadaisical in a slow brand of basketball offensively. And so adding someone like Shaq to the mix really, I think, just turned up the energy level. And I think it's going to it's paying dividends for KU right now. And it's the type of thing that, is he going to be a first team All Big 12 player? No, but I think he's for KU, I don't think there's a better player to be in the starting lineup for what he provides. And then as a team, KU's just bought in. Hunter Dickinson has never been the best defensive center in the world, but he is someone that, when you scheme correctly around him, you can make things tough on the other team, because he's still a 7-footer and he's gotten some blocks in recent games. And I think that he can still do some okay things when he's not having to go run around, like a chicken with its head cut off, on the perimeter. And so you put all these things together, and KU is able to guard it at such a high level, and they're turning teams over more. And I just think generally it's not what I think a lot of people expected going into the year, but right now this really has the feeling of something that is fitting.
The first 5 is getting it done on defense, certainly. That lineup of Moore along with Harris and Adams and Mayo and Dickinson. But it's a tough 5 offensively. There's not a lot of spacing. There's not a ton of individual shot creation there. Cincinnati was able to make it hard on KU in the half court because they could lean on Dickinson a little bit and be physical with him, because they have a big man who's close to as big and strong as Dickinson is and Aziz Bandago. So what has to happen for that 5, Michael, to get it done offensively? Obviously, they defend at the level that they've defended. They're not going to have to be elite offensively to win games. But what does that 5 in particular have to do well offensively to give it a chance to score enough to play a lot of minutes together?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, and I think it's something we're still going to have to wait and see. I think there were some positive flashes, I think, against Cincinnati. And look, Cincinnati is a good defense, right? I think they were top 10 going into the game. Like, they were a good defensive team. And I think down the stretch, you saw some things that maybe can work. First and foremost, I think where KJ Adams is standing on the floor is really important. And where he stands, I think, can help unlock other things. He can't be a guy that is trying to, quote unquote, space the floor, right? He can't be standing on the wing, because that's when you get into these situations where, you got the screen grabs going around on social media and of guys, 2 feet in the paint. And so you look at what Zeke Mayo was able to do on some of those pin downs, what Shaquille Moore was able to do off some ball screen stuff. If you've got guys standing in the right spots, you can still create. And I think a lot still comes down to playing with a lot of energy, right? Are you cutting? Are you really crashing the boards? Are you doing stuff like that? I think for KU, that's such an important part of it, because, again, you're playing with 3 players who aren't really great 3-point shooters, so you've got to have guys all over the floor, knowing the right spot to be in, so you can create those good matchups. And so I think for KU, it's going to come down to that, for that kind of 5 to be able to play a lot of minutes together, right? It's going to come down to, I think, just execution, and those guys all understanding where they need to be and not making mental mistakes.
Michael Swain is our guest. He covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. He joins us every Tuesday at this time on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for Jayhawk Weekly. Rylan Griffin, Michael, is averaging 15 and a half minutes per game during Big 12 play. Is that a good number for him, or do you think he's earned a little bit more than that?
I think he's earned some more than that. I think, it's an interesting situation because I think Rylan has shown some flashes, right? You can look at, the game against Arizona State. You can look at some of the times in the second half against Cincinnati, right? You can see what he does. And then there are also times where you just watch him and it's like, man, it's not clicking right now. I think theoretically, right, I think he should be playing about 20 to 22 minutes a game. And where should those minutes come from? I'm ready to hit eject on AJ Storr right now. That's just my opinion. But I think him and maybe some David Coit minutes, right? If you limit that, you find the right combinations where maybe you have someone else out there, Zeke and Rylan playing the 3. And look, I think you can always look at maybe some of the KJ Adams minutes. Does he need to be playing, 32, 33 minutes a game? So I think you can kind of, if Rylan is able to put it all together and be consistent, I think you can get in a situation where Bill Self can chip away. Okay, maybe 2 minutes from Diggy come away, maybe a minute from KJ, maybe a minute, from AJ's spot at the end of the bench right now. Maybe you can, scrabble together enough minutes to where Rylan's in the 20s. I think that's where he should be, just based off what he provides you with 3-point shooting, with his ability to create off the dribble. That's something that's been really impressive for me. I did not expect that, but you look over the last couple of games, Rylan's been pretty good when he attacks off the bounce. And so I think he's offering KU some stuff offensively. And I think for him, the playing time comes down to, hey, how are you guarding? Are you in the right spots? Are you giving KU some extra energy on the glass? I think if he does those things, he's going to play more. And so I think in a similar sense to AJ Storr, it comes down to some of those things on the defensive end or the offensive end.
Diggy Coit, I like the energy. He plays his ass off, even though he's not very big. I like all those things about him. I think he's also made 1 3-pointer since the Millard Fillmore administration. What is KU getting out of him right now?
Yeah, I think buying time, right? I think that's a huge thing that Diggy does give KU right now. And I don't think he's actually been awful defensively, which if you're saying it's a 5'9", being generous guard, you're not thinking that's going to be great. But I think the way that he plays and the effort he plays with, right, it does allow you to play him and not necessarily always feel like you're just, a sinking ship defensively when he's out there. I think the shooting will come offensively. I do think generally, if you looked at his games this year, he's not been great in the elite high major games. I think he has, I'm not going to say stat padded, but I think some of the games against some of the mid majors in lower tier teams have helped him. And look, he's still a guy that I think can help KU. Should he be playing double-digit minutes a game? I'm not sure right now. But also, KU needs the help to spare Zeke Mayo and DeJuan Harris and Shaq Moore. So when you got those 3 guys starting together, you need a guard off the bench who can handle the basketball, and that's what Diggy's giving you KU right now.
All right, Wednesday night in Ames, the building you are very familiar with, Hilton Coliseum. What is a win going to look like? If Kansas beats Iowa State, pulls the upset over Iowa State, at least according to the AP poll, what is that going to look like?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it's going to be a rock fight. The Iowa State offensively has been so good this year, and that's been a revelation for Iowa State. TJ Osselberger's teams have not been very good offensively since he's been at Iowa State, and this is the first time they've had a top 50 offense under him, and they're a top 10 offense this year. So I think KU's going to have to really lean into that defensive identity. I think it's going to come down to, for KU, can they not turn the ball over? Because Iowa State does a great job of turning up the pressure, really putting you in tough positions. If KU could take care of the basketball, not give Iowa State easy points, not give Hilton Coliseum reasons to be excited, if they can really slow this game down, make it an execution game, I think that's how they're going to have to win it. I don't think this is the type of team where KU can get into a foot race up and down with Iowa State, because of the way Iowa State plays and genuinely the depth Iowa State plays with. They're subbing before the first media timeout, right? It's incredible what they're doing with their rotation. So it's a team that's going to provide a really tough matchup for KU. Their guards are really good, but I think KU's going to have to lean into that defensive identity and offensively, I think really get into this a slower execution style game.
Chatting with Michael Swain of Fog.net and 24/7 Sports, joining us for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk via the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Make sure you go sign up for VIP over at Fog.net and 24/7 to get all the best inside info and scoops into what's going on with Kansas athletics. Wanted to flip over to football before we let you go, Michael. Justice Finkley is the newest member of the Kansas Jayhawks. 6'2", 250, a transfer from Texas, former top-tier recruit. As far as I'm concerned, Michael, that's KU's new starting strong side defensive end.
Yeah, I think so. And it's a huge need for KU because I think, you look at the defensive end room and the one non-question mark is Dean Miller, right? And I think you got to give Dean credit for his improvement over the course of the season. But it's not a place you want to be in, right? With such an important position. And so getting someone like Finkley, who people at Texas rave about him, like they say, great character, hard worker, good player, just got recruited over. And the guy that, beat him out this year, Colin Simmons, like he's going to be a top 10 draft. Like that's how good the kid is. So for KU, it's a huge, huge get. And now you can look at the defensive end spot and say, you've got experienced players, right? Dean Miller and Finkley that can start. And then you've got high upside question marks. How's Dylan Brooks going to look coming off a year where he hasn't played much football, right? He's been hurt. How's Bai Jobe going to develop? He's someone that I'm pretty high on. I think he's going to figure it out eventually. But he didn't play a bunch last year. I think less than 100 snaps, but he did produce. And then you've got some of your younger guys, right? Can Dak Brinkley take a step forward? You got a new transfer in Caleb Redd, who the coaches are high on. So there's a lot more question marks behind those two. But now you have two experienced starting defensive ends. And then you can kind of see what happens with some of those super high upside young players behind them.
Is that the most impactful transfer to date, Finkley, you think, for 2025 at least, Michael?
Oh, that's a good question. No, I'd go with one of the linebackers. KU's current – if KU didn't get any linebackers, they'd be in so much trouble next year. So I think you'd look at one of the linebackers, maybe someone like Joseph Sipp Jr. from Bowling Green. I think he would be a high-impact guy. I'd probably have Bengali Kamara from South Carolina up there, Trey Latham from West Virginia. I think those guys, just in terms of need / guaranteed almost production, I think those guys are going to probably have a higher impact on KU than someone like Finkley, just because of, I think someone like Finkley is not going to give you first team All Big 12 level of play. I think he's going to be very solid, but I'm not sure if he's going to have that type of ceiling where I think if one of KU's linebackers puts it together, if someone like Kamara puts it together with what he does athletically, he can be a first team All Big 12 guy. And so that's kind of where my head's at with the front seven.
Michael Swain covers Kansas Jayhawks athletics for Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Highly recommend a subscription if you are a Jayhawk fan and want to be in the know to be a VIP member at 24/7 Sports and Fog.net. Michael joins us every Tuesday for Jayhawk Weekly on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Michael, always a pleasure. We'll do it again next week.
Awesome. Sounds great, guys. Talk to you later.
That is Michael Swain. We'll take a timeout, come back, and wrap up this 4 o'clock hour. 580 Sports Talk next. Our thanks again to Michael Swain, fog.net, for joining us. Big one tomorrow night at Hilton Coliseum. KU and Iowa State. We'll look forward to previewing that one on tomorrow's show. KU, Iowa State, Houston versus the field. You think anybody else has a chance to win the Big 12?
KU, Iowa State, Houston. You like Baylor? You like Arizona?
I think Arizona's good.
I wouldn't take Arizona.
Yeah, I wouldn't
I
pick them to
wouldn't
win the league.
No, I wouldn't either.
No, I think the league champ's going to be one of those three: Houston, Iowa State, Kansas. Those are the three teams in the top 10 in the conference in Ken Palm.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I would not argue with any of that.
Maybe a one gotta go topic for tomorrow.
Might be.
Teasing tomorrow's show.
Not to give anything away. Maybe that's a one gotta go for tomorrow on 580 Sports Talk. Coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, K-State plays tonight. They got Texas Tech. Normally, I would really like this spot for Kansas State. That is presuming that Kansas State is a normal, not good team and not a broken, not good team. And there is a difference. And we'll get into that a little bit as K-State takes on Tech tonight. 8 o'clock tip, 7 o'clock pregame right here on 580 WIBW FM 104.9. Also, ESPN's Dan Graziani made some predictions for who he thinks each NFL team with a coaching vacancy is going to hire. We'll discuss those. And, of course, we will lead off the hour with our 580 Sports Talk headlines. All of that, your text, your YouTube comments, coming up with one more hour to go on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Third and final hour on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk, live and direct from the capital city on this Tuesday on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our video stream. You can watch us on YouTube. 580 Sports Talk is the name of the channel. What's happening? You can also watch us on Facebook, WIBW News. I am Dan Lucero. Brendan Dworzinski is across the table from me. Spencer Dupuis is in the control room. The gang's all here for the final hour of the program today.
I was doing the Sam Darnold mononucleosis point at the camera.
Out indefinitely. They brought the generator back. The image generator where you can make it say whatever is back on the internet.
Yes, I had mine saying double cheeked up on a Thursday afternoon.
So, speaking of Sam Darnold,
yes,
I just was on Twitter. These AI video press conference remakes are getting way out of hand.
Here's the thing about AI.
Sludge, garbage.
It sucks. It's bad.
Waste of energy, and it's a bubble that will burst.
I did see one, Spencer. I know exactly what you're talking about because I've seen them too. I saw one that was like, oh my gosh, did you see this Mike Tomlin quote about Russell Wilson? He was like, Russell Wilson is a bum. I hate his dumb ass. And it was very fake. It was a little funny, but.
Two in the last 24 hours. One was Jerry Jones talking about Mike McCarthy and saying that he was going to go out there and coach himself. And then I just saw one about Sam Darnold being happy he can go home to his family and his home. That's what it said.
Like, at least Andy Agar's buying the team gear and like putting some actual effort into it.
True.
Instead of just killing half of a rainforest to make a 30-second fake clip of Jerry Jones.
Speaking of Mike McCarthy, just saw a tweet. You know who chimed in about why he'd be a great fit for the Chicago Bears? Brett Favre.
Oh.
I saw a response to that quote from Brett Favre of Samuel L. Jackson in Pulp Fiction.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember asking you a god bleep thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd feel the same way. Honestly, if Brett Favre said, you know what? I think Jordan Love is great. And if you're a Packers fan, I think you're a wonderful person. I'd say, Brett, shut the hell up. Go away.
Yeah, nobody needs to hear anything from Brett Favre anymore except, I'm sorry I stole all that money from welfare recipients in my home state of Mississippi.
Also,
so I
I'm
could
paying
build my
it back.
daughter a volleyball arena.
Yeah, pay it back, Brett.
Yeah.
I
know
can't
you
get
got
over
it.
that.
I know you got it. Pay it back.
Bad guy.
Yeah.
Really heartbreaking.
Childhood hero, bad guy. Never meet your heroes or never live long enough to find out your heroes were texting pictures of their genitals to women who are not their wives and stealing from welfare recipients.
Well, at least I had Aaron Rodgers.
I know, right? That generation of Packer fans picked the right hero.
So
what's Jordan Love's major
I'm
defect
hoping
going to be?
he just like stole rusted out cars. Like that's kind of what I'm hoping for. Like, okay, that's fine.
Jordan Love, just a crippling pornography addiction.
See, now the thing that does help, or at least seems to help, Jordan Love's significant other, his fiance, Ronica. I thought that was short for Veronica. It's not. All of her siblings are like RO names.
Okay.
Anyway, she seems lovely and like just wants to make TikToks and Instagram posts calling him Pookie. Like very normal, very lovely. Aaron Rodgers, notoriously, dates weird people.
Uh-huh.
Danica Patrick, strangest woman in the world, possibly.
So I'm pretty sure she is part of the reason he got into these retreats.
Oh, yeah. No, that's
because when I watched the documentary on the plane ride, it was a picture of them she posted on Instagram going to this retreat.
Yes.
I wouldn't have watched that on a plane ride to Mars. Like, I cannot believe you spent your precious time on the Aaron Rodgers documentary on Netflix. I can't imagine anyone would.
I didn't.
He is dreadfully uninteresting. He thinks he's smarter than everyone else, and he spends too much time on the internet.
So his romantic life, problematic.
He's got a new girlfriend, apparently.
I'm sure he does.
I'm sure she goes by like Butterfly and thinks she's an actual witch or something like that.
No, unfortunately, he broke up with Blue Earth a while back.
Yeah, Blue Earth.
Blue Earth. That was real. Blue Earth is very real. Brett Favre, also notoriously unpleasant married life.
Yeah.
Don't ask middle-aged women around the state of Wisconsin their experiences with Brett Favre. By the way, that group of women, unfortunately, does not include his wife, Diana. Or Deanna.
Deanna, yeah.
Yeah, not great, guys. Not great.
Not
Jordan Love just wants to, like, eat Raising Cane's and hang out with his girlfriend.
Don Majkowski was a fairly normal person.
Yeah,
by
the Magic
all
Man's
accounts.
great.
Yeah,
Shout out to the Magic
he
Man.
preceded Favre.
Yeah.
That's wild. Like there was Love, then there was Rodgers, then there was Favre, and then it was before you were born. Like then we have to go all the way back to Don Majkowski.
Yes.
Like that's the chain. That's still one of the wildest things in American sports.
That's pretty much like the KU basketball coaching lineage.
Right.
8 coaches in 126 years.
Right.
3 full-time starting quarterbacks in 32 years is preposterous.
2 full-time starting quarterbacks, neither of whom you would want to spend more than 5 minutes with.
No.
I'm not sure I'd want to spend 5 seconds with Aaron Rodgers.
See, Aaron Rodgers has always had a reputation that he's like really good with kids, and like people would run into him in Green Bay and he'd be like, "Hey, Jimmy, like it's great to meet you. I'm glad," because everyone wears Packer stuff.
A lot of his teammates say he's a good hang.
And being very pleasant.
Yes.
But then you are like, "Oh, would you like to come to my cave?" Like, nah, I'm good. Like, if I saw Brett Favre, I'd walk away. I would just walk away.
No, yeah, at this point, no thanks. Like, I'm not interested in talking about jeans or
what's in those jeans
or copper like elbow guard.
He doesn't do the copper fit anymore.
I think copper fit dropped him like a bad habit.
He does the male enhancement
no longer
now.
had the credibility to endorse copper fit.
I think he does the male enhancement. What's the pro?
Oh,
the what is it? It's super beta prostate.
Oh my god!
I'm pretty sure I've seen a
can't even
Brett
get the
Favre super
Nugenics.
beta prostate.
Nugenics would rather have Doug Flutie. He went 3 MVPs.
I know we're getting off track here.
It's fine.
Real quick, those are the worst. Like, I have absolute go get if you. Treatment is fine, but those commercials are crazy. Like, wow, it's great to see Frank Thomas and Doug Flutie. You guys are way hotter than my loser husband.
Oh, wow. It's Hall of Famer Frank Thomas.
Just strolling through my neighborhood.
Frank, you made good money playing ball, man. You had a video game. You had your own Reebok line of apparel. There's no way you're this hard up for money.
He might be making more money from them.
He really might. Andy Van Slyke made sense. When I saw Andy Van Slyke on those commercials, it was like, okay, yeah, I'm sure. That's the guy, modern era Andy Van Slyke would have been on a $120 million contract. And he was ahead of his time. And I understand if he's trying to recoup some of those baseball earnings.
Dan Helly being in those commercials was also very funny. The
Van Earl?
Z team broadcaster for Fox.
Was Van Earl Wright not available?
Remember when Jimmy Johnson used to do Extends commercials?
I do. How do we get here?
Grotesque.
Of
all the people I want selling me that, Jimmy Johnson is last on the list.
Absolute bottom of the list.
Only ahead of Jason Garrett.
We are going to talk sports on this hour of 580 Sports Talk, I promise. Speaking of NFL head coaches, Dan Graziani of ESPN made predictions for the 6 teams that currently have openings as to who he thinks they will hire. There were some interesting predictions I thought were worth discussing and dissecting. Also, we're going to preview some hoops tonight. Kansas State men's basketball at home against the Red Raiders of Texas Tech. That game tips off at 8 o'clock tonight. You can hear it right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. Pre-game coverage from the K-State Sports Network starting at 7 o'clock ahead of tip-off from the Octagon. We will preview that one later on as well.
I just remembered before his mind became mashed potatoes with brown gravy. Do you remember what Aaron Rodgers was doing when the COVID pandemic was officially made a pandemic and the world locked down?
I don't.
He had to escape from the jungles of Peru.
Oh.
Yeah, he was in Peru on some other sort of drug-infused crystal retreat. Him and Danica Patrick and their weird celebrity friends, and they literally had to run through an airport to catch the last plane out of Lima.
That man was going to host Jeopardy.
Can you imagine if he retired from football and hosted Jeopardy if that happened?
That gig was his if he wanted it, and he was very seriously considering it.
I cannot tell you how much I wish he had gotten that job instead of going to the Jets. We would not know nearly as much about him as we know.
No.
And I would have felt so much better.
His teammates still do. They say, yeah, he's a great
he's chill, yeah.
They say, he weirdly wants to know whether 9/11 was an inside job immediately upon meeting him. But other than that, yeah, pleasant guy.
What was his name?
DeShone Kaiser.
DeShone Kaiser saying his first practice, Roger said, what do you think of those trails behind the airplanes up there?
What do you
What?
What do you think those are?
What do you mean? wild guy.
Gee,
Thank you
All
for
right.
Super Bowl 45, Aaron.
Let's get to some 580 Sports Talk headlines, shall we? I'm going to do the Chiefs headline today, and then we'll get to the Washburn headline that we were expecting that indeed did come true today. But I'll start with the Chiefs. I'll start with the participation report for the Chiefs at their Tuesday practice. Again, the participation reports start with Tuesday because the game against the Texans is on Saturday. Here are a list of Chiefs who did not practice today. That is the list. Here is a list of Chiefs who were limited in practice today. McCole Hardman. That's it.
And he's on the IR still.
Yeah, he's still
on his 21-day window.
Right. Everyone else was a full participant in practice today. I don't know if this is a mistake, if this is intentional omission or what, but Jalen Watson does not have IR next to his name. I think that's wrong. I don't think he has been officially activated from IR.
I figured they wait till the last minute.
But yeah, they didn't put the IR next to his name in the graphic here at Chiefs.com. They do have it next to Hardman. So read into that if you'd like. But everybody else, a full participant in practice today for the Chiefs. Shamari Connor, DJ Humphries, Patrick Mahomes, Trent McDuffie, Isaiah Pacheco, Nico Remigio, Carson Steele, Juwan Taylor, Jalen Watson, and Chris Jones, all full go for the Chiefs. That is a healthy football team, as healthy as they can possibly be entering the divisional round. As for the Texans, they had 4 players held out of practice today, including 2 offensive linemen. Guard Shaq Mason and interior lineman Juice Scruggs were both DNPs, as was linebacker Azeez Al-Shire, who was injured in that game against the Chargers on Saturday, injured his knee. He was a DNP for this game, or for Tuesday's practice. Wide receiver Robert Woods did not practice as well. 3 players limited for the Texans: defensive end Nico Autry, tight end Dalton Schultz, and wide receiver Nico Collins, though his was a rest day. Will Anderson Jr., Nick Broker, offensive lineman, and tight end Tegan Quitoriano were full participants.
He's not real.
Yeah,
That's not real.
Tegan Quitoriano was on like a season of the OC.
He was in the background on that episode where what's her name? Marissa shot Trey.
Laguna Beach. All the boys on Laguna Beach were named Tegan.
Hey,
Quitoriano.
where did Tegan go to college?
Stanford.
Marshall.
No, Oregon State.
That was close.
He was a 5th round pick in 2022.
Fascinating. This has been 580 Tegan Quitoriano talk. Anyway, you'd much rather have the Chiefs injury report than the Texans, especially if Al-Shire can't go, because
that's tough.
He's a dirty player. He's a headhunter, but he's really important to that Texans defense. There's a reason he's a captain. So,
very, very important to that team.
That's the name to watch, I think, on the Texans list for Saturday. Anyway, that is that headline. Brendan, give us the Washburn headline.
All right. Well, I actually had some breaking news. This is the big headline of the day. Former Royal Jonathan Heasley has signed a deal with the White Sox. That's the big news of the day. No, on a serious note, it is official. We knew it was coming, and it is official as of just before noon today. For the first time in 33 years, your Washburn Ichabods are the number 1 ranked team in America. They are the number 1 team in the NABC Top 25 Coaches Poll released earlier today. The Bods received 14 of 16 first place votes. The other teams that got the first place votes: Damon University in New York. They are also undefeated. And Nova Southeastern, last week's number 1 team. The last time that Washburn was number 1 in the polls, January 27th of 1992. It has been a long, long time. This is from SID extraordinaire Gene Castle over at Washburn. Gene has, on the last time Washburn was number 1, like what the world was like. Can you tell me, Dan, what the cost of a gallon of milk was on January 27th of 1992?
I wasn't not in charge of buying groceries at the time, but I'm going to say $1.10.
$1.17.
Not far off.
Not too bad.
A dozen eggs. Hot topic. Cost of eggs. Do you know what they were in January of 92?
$1.50.
93 cents.
Went over there.
Wow.
Gallon of gas? Anyone?
I'll take 92 cents.
I wish, not quite. You were close though. $1.07.
Okay.
Number 1 song in the world, or in America anyway. Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me by George Michael with Elton John. Number 1 movie, Hook.
So that was the 91-92 team, right?
Correct,
That was
Mundo.
ranked number 1 in the country. Went 27-5. Went to 1 win shy of the Elite Eight. I'm actually looking right now at the 1992-93 Washburn Men's Basketball Media Guide. These pictures of Bob Chipman, Torrey Head, and Ron McHenry are sending me. They all had mustaches.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Absolutely rules.
That's tremendous.
Yeah, names like Todd Alexander, Lonnie Hebert, David Johnson, Andy Berlin, Kerry Dickerson, Malcolm Daniels on that roster.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now, talk about dudes on this roster like we talk about dudes from that era for Chip's teams back then. This group is good, man. They are really, really good. Washburn is going to take on Emporia State coming up on Wednesday, looking to keep that alive. I should also note that Washburn is one of 2 undefeateds, Damon being the other one. This means that Washburn has been ranked in the top 5 7 straight weeks for the first time in program history.
Wow.
Last time Washburn started 15-0, you got to go back to 2004. They then won their 16th game. They won the MIAA that year.
I would also be remiss if I did not mention from that team Reggie Holbert, who was the team MVP, Kenny Rogers, Maurice Lamar, Marvin Singleton, all were seniors on that roster back in 91-92.
Also, this is technically the 3rd time that Washburn has been number 1 in Division II. The first was January 13th, 1992. Then they dropped to 2nd, and then the following week on the 27th, they got bumped back up to 1st. That's the last time it happened, and the only other time it happened. So just the 2nd season ever Washburn has been number 1 in the nation. They will be taking on Emporia State tomorrow night. 5:30 for the women. Don't forget the women. They beat Emporia State, too. They're playing better basketball right now. Had a close one against Northwest this weekend. The women tip at 5:30. The men at about 7:30. Hope to see you out there. It was a great crowd Saturday. Hope it's another great one coming up Wednesday night.
Spencer, give us a headline.
Yeah, speaking of the Chiefs, Texans, the Texans will not have a player on their roster that was on their roster for the wild card game, that being wide receiver Deontay Johnson. He's been waived. And in media availability today, D'Amico Ryan had, quote, this to say: unfortunately, with Deontay, it didn't work out, and he stole favorite line of one Bill Belichick. We're on to the Chiefs. And that's how he ended that question. After the game against the Chargers, he was visibly frustrated in the locker room, and he was upset. He was fully dressed, sitting in his locker in frustration due to lack of playing time and targets. Running back Joe Mixon and linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair tried to comfort him and encourage him.
What would our old pal Jake LeBon have said about a player like Deontay Johnson?
Be better than your problem.
Right now, he is not.
No, he is first team can't get right.
Yeah.
Right now. And like, not only
Steelers receivers, man.
Not only can't get right, you can't get right when your head coaches are Mike Tomlin, John Harbaugh, and D'Amico Ryan. Like, it's not like those are head coaches who have no experience handling guys who are like tough to deal with.
Yeah, that's a you problem, my friend.
Yeah, that is definitely becoming you problem, to the point where I'd almost be surprised we see him in a training camp. Like, because if you can't stay on one of those teams, because those are golden opportunities. All those teams are playoff teams. The Ravens and the Texans are obviously still alive. And
the Steelers could not wait to get rid of him.
Yeah, Steelers couldn't wait to get rid of him.
Also, he was with Carolina for a minute.
Yeah, was with Carolina for
Who
a
was
hot
playing
second.
better at the end of the year, and they could use more weapons for Bryce Young, and they still couldn't use him. Yeah, that's a problem, pal.
It makes you wonder how much he really even wants to play at this point.
I will say he gets a tryout with the Jaguars.
Okay, see that.
Yeah.
Feels like a Shad Khan move.
Next headline for me here in our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Maybe this is a bit of the tail wagging the dog from ESPN, but if it is, that's fine. We got to have something to talk about, right? And the Dallas Cowboys are always happy to be a topic of discussion, even though they are, as they usually are at this time of year, out of sight, out of mind when it comes to the NFL playoffs. The Cowboys are in the early stages of their search to replace Mike McCarthy as head coach, and ESPN has reported that Jerry Jones has had discussions with current Colorado head coach Deion Sanders, a source telling ESPN that Jones and Sanders spoke on Monday, and while an interview has not been scheduled, the two are expected to continue their dialogue. Adam Schefter got a statement last night from Deion Sanders in regards to this that I am presently digging for.
Well, you dig for that. I'll give you props. And a lot of people said it yesterday when it was clear McCarthy wasn't coming back. Oh, it's going to be Deion. He's going to go for prime time. I really did not think that connection would make sense because I think Prime wants to be the guy. He wants to be the star of the show everywhere he goes, and Jerry also wants to be the star of the show everywhere he goes.
Here's the thing, though. Dion is the star of the show everywhere
Yeah.
he goes. Flat out, bottom line. This is the quote what he told ESPN Monday night. To hear from Jerry Jones is truly delightful, and it's intriguing. I love Jerry and believe in Jerry. After you hang up and process it and think about it, it's intriguing. But I love Boulder and everything there is about our team, the coaches, our student body, and the community. You know what that isn't? A no.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a guy who's got some real interest there.
Yeah, honest to goodness, I think he would take it if the Cowboys offered him and said, we'll trade up for Shedeur. Because I believe Dion when he said he wants to coach his kid more. I 100% believe that to be true. I think if the Cowboys are willing to say, we'll do anything and everything we can, like the extension hasn't even kicked in for Dak Prescott yet.
Here's the thing, though, man. Imagine that contract negotiation. Imagine that second contract for Shedeur. Hey, my dad's coming to the negotiation with me.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, he's the head coach.
And he's the head coach, yeah. No, I think that Jerry Jones views his football team as an entertainment product. And what could be more entertaining than Deion Sanders on your sideline?
That's true.
Yeah.
So
Can't argue with that.
I do. I think there's real smoke here. I'm not going to predict it. I'm not going to put my name on it and predict that that's the direction they're going to go. I'm just not going to be surprised if it is.
Let's get you a couple of quick other notes from the coaching carousel in the NFL. Mike Tomlin spoke today. He had his season-ending press conference and was asked about teams that might inquire about a trade for him. What did he say to that? Quote, save your time. Mike Tomlin ain't going anywhere. Quote, I understand the nature of what it is we do, the attention and criticism that comes with it. As a matter of fact, I embrace it, to be quite honest with you. I enjoy the urgency that comes with what I do and what we do. I don't make excuses for failure. I own it, but I also feel like I'm capable. And so long as I'm afforded an opportunity to do that, I will continue. But I certainly understand their frustrations. And probably more importantly than that, I share it because that's how I'm wired. I know how old Mike Tomlin is because I do. But Matt Verderame talking about it yesterday and said, yeah, he could do this for 20 more years if he wanted. Mike Tomlin's 52. That is insane.
Is very young for a coach anymore.
Great. Yes, like dudes are getting first head coaching jobs at 52.
Yeah.
And he has been the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers starting in the 2007 season. His tenure as the head coach of the Steelers is as old as the iPhone. And he's still only 52. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Crazy. And again, I don't think it's a bad idea to keep him, but I also don't think it would be a terrible idea to, listen to calls. By the way, I did not know this. Mike Tomlin was a wide receiver in college.
Yeah.
Maybe that makes things make a little more sense.
Yeah.
He knows how the wide receiver brain works.
Yes.
Maybe that does help a little bit.
Maybe it does.
Also, real quick, another note from the coaching carousel today. Tommy Reese has been promoted to offensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns. They fired Ken Dorsey. Yeah, Ken Dorsey might not be very good at this. You got fired by the Bills, then fired by the Browns after 1 year. Yeah, it might be it for him.
Yeah.
Tommy Reese, though. Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
That just tells me that Kevin Stefanski is taking back all play calling power.
100%.
Oh, yeah, he's got to.
Yeah.
100%.
And I don't think that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
That'll
Hey, Dan,
wrap-
wait, are you ready for week 2?
Oh, yeah. I'm so ready for week 2. I'm so ready for week 2.
Week 2, the
Week-
TGL.
Yeah, week 2 of what?
The TGL, baby. We got Jupiter Lynx tonight. That
Stop
is
it.
Tiger's team.
I saw a picture on Twitter of Tiger walking in, so I had to ask.
Taking on the Los Angeles Golf Club tonight, who features Tommy Fleetwood, Colin Morikawa, Justin Rose, and Sahith Thagala. Jupiter Lynx, Tiger Woods, Kevin Kisner, Tom Kim, and Max Homa. That's the matchup tonight on ESPN. Los Angeles Golf Club, Jupiter Lynx Golf Club. Tiger Woods is in the lineup. It's a 4-golfer team, 3-golfer lineup. Tiger's playing tonight. I'll be a little interested to see how many people tune in to watch Tiger play Golf Simulator. Because I bet it's a higher number than the people who tuned in to watch it week 1.
That's probably true.
People love
I would tend to agree.
I'm going to check it out. I'm check it out before I check out some K-State basketball tonight. They take on Texas Tech. We're going to preview it next here on 580 Sports Talk. .533 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, Brendan, Spencer with you. Coming up tonight here on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, Kansas State basketball takes on Texas Tech at Bramlage Coliseum. 7 o'clock pregame, 8 o'clock tip-off on the K-State Sports Network. Wyatt Thompson, Stan Weber on the call. I actually don't hate this spot for Kansas State, just in a vacuum. Just we can ignore everything but the most recent example of what we've seen from these two teams, Kansas State and Texas Tech. K-State just got rolled on their home floor on Saturday. Absolutely embarrassed on their home floor. Lost by 30 to a really good Houston team. A Houston team that I picked at the beginning of the year to win a national championship. I no longer think they're the best team in the country, but I'm going to stick to my guns a little bit with Houston. I think they're championship good. Texas Tech, meanwhile, is coming off of an emotional overtime game also on Saturday at home where they had it in the bag against Iowa State, and they blew it. They flat out blew it. They missed some free throws late. Iowa State beat the buzzer to send it to overtime. And then they took the lead in overtime, and Texas Tech got a really good look at a winner and missed. And they lost that game at home, place where they don't usually lose, in a game that would have been a monster win, a validating win. Because you remember, we had CJ Moore on for our Big 12 basketball breakdown on Thursday, and I asked him about Texas Tech, and he says, that record they built up is kind of because they haven't really played anybody. They've got impressive metrics right now, but a lot of that is their schedule hasn't been real strong. That would have been a real validating win for that Texas Tech team, and they missed it. So normally I would say with K-State trying to recover from a disheartening home performance and being energized and fired up for this game, and for Tech missing out on a big win at home and now having to go on the road, I would say this is a spot that would normally, I would say, favors Kansas State. But that's if Kansas State is just normal, not good, and not a completely fractured mess of a basketball team. Because there's a difference, right? Like if you're not a real good Big 12 team, typically you can still beat good teams at home.
Yeah.
Like you look at last year, like K-State ended up an NIT team. Look at who they beat at home last year. They beat Baylor at home. They beat KU at home. They got some good wins at home, even though that was not a particularly good team. And this year's team, certainly on track to be worse than that one record-wise. I don't necessarily think it's worse talent-wise. Just don't think the talent quite matches up with each other. But they got some players. Like K-State has guys who can play. And if they're just a normal, not good basketball team, I think they can win tonight. But if they're broken, if the rot is too deep for this Kansas State team, then they might get rolled again. Because here's what Texas Tech is going to do. They'll play disciplined. They've got a guy, Williams, who can really, really score for them. They've got some size and some physicality. Grant McCaslin and Jerome Tang know each other really well. There's not going to be a lot of secrets on the sideline.
Yep.
There's a reason Texas Tech is a 7-point favorite in this game, according to Prairie Band Sportsbook. And I think that if Kansas State is really and truly just broken beyond repair, like that there is a fracture that has occurred within that roster on that team, that they just can't even muster a 40-minute effort that you would expect a team to be able to muster on their home court, then they might get blown out again. But they've got a chance to prove tonight that they're still pulling the rope in the same direction, even if they are ultimately going to be too flawed to get it all the way pulled back in the right direction, that they're still pulling the rope together. That's what I'm looking for tonight from this Kansas State team. Is this a together effort, or is this a 10 guys, 10 Ubers sort of situation?
So the various places that pick games and, do projections for games and all of that. Bart Torvik, T-Rank, his metric, which is free. Ken Palm, you just get the basic stuff. Bart Torvik stuff is mostly all free. He's got Texas Tech projected as a 9.3 point favorite. My guy Boydetology, his metrics has Texas Tech by 13. The spread, according to the fine folks at Prairie Band Sportsbook in Mayetta, have Texas Tech by 6.5.
Oh, it's gone down to 6.5. Okay.
6.5. What was it before you mentioned? 7.
7 this morning.
I'd probably take Texas Tech. I do not feel good about where this Kansas State team is right now.
It's hard to, right?
I have some very real concerns as well. And this is not a shot at the fan base by any means. Not one bit. 8 o'clock tip, Tuesday night, bad team off a historically bad loss. I'm not sure how much juice that crowd is going to provide for the Cats tonight either, which is going to be hard.
Yeah, that's 100% true. And, even
I'd love to be proven wrong.
Even through last year, even that last year with disappointment, the students still came out and supported that team and got behind Coach Tang and got behind those players. Are we going to see that same level of commitment from even the students? Like that's what I'll have an eye on tonight as I'm just watching the game on TV. But no, I think you're right. Like, I think that, again, in a normal scenario, after a bad home loss, you'd have their home crowd try and get behind you a little bit and say, hey, that's not happening in this building twice in a row. We're going to get behind these guys. We're going to give them a nudge. We're going to be a sixth man tonight. Is this a fan base that has that in them right now? Or have they been a little too beaten down from what they've witnessed here in the last month from this basketball team?
There's some really interesting games across college basketball tonight. Unfortunately, K-State and Texas Tech is not necessarily one of them. Although if K-State puts up a great effort, would change your mind on that, obviously. A lot of ranked games involving SEC teams today. Kentucky and Texas A&M, that's a top 12 or top 11 matchup. Alabama, Ole Miss, that's a ranked game. There was another one, Auburn versus Mississippi State.
Yeah.
That one's on the plains, but again, no John I. Broome.
The SEC is the basketball conference now.
It is.
Like, I don't know. I don't know if that's permanent, but right now there is no debating who's the better basketball league this year.
Here's a more interesting game than any of those, in my opinion. Arkansas at LSU. Arkansas is favored by 1 on the road. If they lose that game to a bad LSU team tonight, oh man, not us. I will find it very funny. There are going to be a lot of questions about old Coach Cal.
Yes.
And his team of superstar players that he recruited originally at Kentucky, the superstar recruits he got to start the year at Arkansas, and then the transfers from other places like John L. Davis, who is terrible now. Went from great player to terrible player in one offseason. I don't think so. Maybe went from good coach to bad coach. Because Dusty May, his thing's working at Michigan. Michigan's ranked. They're great, in fact. One of the most aesthetically pleasing teams in the country.
Yeah, Dusty May's done a great job.
There are going to be a lot of questions about old Coach Cal if they lose that game tonight.
The other games in the Big 12 tonight, and as we mentioned earlier on the show, it's all late night Big 12 basketball. It's Big 12 after dark tonight on this Tuesday. Tech and K-State at 8. Oklahoma State at BYU also at 8.
Ugh.
Yeah, BYU 1-3 in conference play, starting off on the wrong foot under Kevin Young. That's his name, right? Kevin Young? Yeah. Baylor and
Not to be confused with the other Kevin Young.
Right, the former
Jayhawk, yeah.
Oh, I was thinking the former Pittsburgh Pirate.
Oh, that too.
Yeah, a lot of Kevin Youngs out there. At 10 o'clock tonight, Baylor at Arizona. That's the game of the night in the conference. Arizona 4-0 in the Big 12 after starting 6-5 in non-conference play against a murderous schedule. Baylor new into the top 25. That's going to be a really fun game at the McHale Center. UCF at Arizona State. Is there a less Big 12 matchup than that one?
No, that's Vichy Big 12 right there.
That's if you had told me 10 years ago, UCF and Arizona State. If you told me 5 years ago, UCF and Arizona State's a conference game now, I think I would have said, what, the American?
Man, Conference USA going crazy.
I would have. I would never have guessed the Big 12. But yeah, UCF, Arizona State.
Who do you like in that one?
I'll take Arizona State at home.
3.5-point favorites. Arizona's favored by 5.5 over 25th ranked Baylor. And BYU's favored by 14 over Oklahoma State. That game's icky. I don't like that at all. Everything about that game is gross.
That's the only one that's stream only tonight. They've quarantined that one on ESPN Plus. Thankfully, that's a good job by the folks at the worldwide leader. We'll take a timeout here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, some predictions about NFL head coaching hirings from ESPN that we'll dissect next. .46 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan, Brendan, Spencer, winding things down on this Tuesday edition of the show. Dan Graziano, national NFL reporter, ESPN, made predictions for all 6 current head coaching vacancies in the NFL, who he thinks each team is going to hire. The Bears, who have interviewed everybody to the point where it's a running joke, to the point on social media that even the Lawrence Police Department made a joke that the Bears contacted them to hire their chief.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. So it's been a running joke how many people that they've interviewed. His prediction is that the Bears will hire Brian Flores. And I don't think Brian Flores is going to be a head coach again. I don't think a team is going to make him a head coach again. Because it went so badly for him as head coach first time.
I mean, I feel like you would have to have him settle his case too, right? His lawsuit against the NFL.
You might. Him and Ryan Poles are both Boston College guys.
Oh man, that'd be so on brand for the Bears. Yeah, I don't know. He's a really good defensive coordinator, but the thing is, he's a really good defensive coordinator until he's not.
Yeah,
that's they blitzed Stafford constantly to start last night, and you know what he did? Ripped him to shreds.
Yeah,
like Jordan Love did it to them the second half of last year. This year, the bad groin didn't really help. But like when guys are ready for the blitz, they kind of tear them up.
I think Chicago's going to hire a more established guy. Like I think Mike McCarthy makes a lot of sense because they've got the quarterback. They need the structure around the quarterback. They need somebody who's got a proven track record of NFL success.
Yeah,
because the quarterback is in place.
As easy as that would be to meme, I would much rather have McCarthy than Flores, to be honest with you.
Even like a Pete Carroll. Honestly,
it's
like if Pete wants back in coaching, that's the best fit for him.
I think Caleb Williams is mentally tough.
I do too.
I think he's a tough dude, despite what people want to say about his painted fingernails or whatever. Who cares? Who could possibly care? But I think he's pretty tough. You got to be to stick around after the garbage year they just had. But if you're the Bears or any team, and you look at what happened with young Tua in Miami, or even Ryan Fitzpatrick, who was the beneficiary of Brian Flores treating Tua terribly. He went on his podcast with Andrew Whitworth the other day and was like, yeah, Brian Flores treats people like crap. Like, jeez. I don't know how you can look at what happened there. And then remember this year when the Dolphins played the Vikings and Tua was asked about it, it was like, yeah, I'm in a place now where people believe in me and like empower me to feel good about myself. They asked Flores about it. He's like, well, I'm happy for Tua. And just completely did not deny that he treated him like garbage.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not putting him in a room with a quarterback younger than 32, man. I'm just not.
Other predictions for the Cowboys, Kellen Moore, current offensive coordinator for the Eagles.
You want to talk about
for the Cowboys?
Oh, God. No, thank you.
Yeah, that's you know what that is? Boring.
Yeah.
That is his. Jerry loves him, though.
Jerry
loves Kellen Moore.
But that's a boring hire. I don't think Jerry's going to do boring. I don't think Jerry's here for boring.
Yeah, probably.
Jacksonville, Bills OC Joe Brady.
I think it'd be a good hire. I think that'd be a very good hire, honestly. I mean, look what he did with college Joe Burrow. Look what he did with more than what he did with Josh Allen. Look at the offense he built around Josh Allen's skill set, I think is the interesting thing there. Which, to me, says they're going to go get some jump ball receivers and let Trevor just chuck it.
His prediction, Dan Graziani of ESPN.com, his prediction for Las Vegas is really starting to get traction everywhere. A lot of belief that it's Ben Johnson in Vegas.
Honest to God, as someone who is a fan of a team in the NFC North, I would love for him to be out of the division. Mm-hmm. And to be completely frank with you, as the Chiefs, I would also be cool with that because, oh, wow, you got the genius offensive play caller. Yeah, get in line behind genius offensive mind Sean Payton and genius coach Jim Harbaugh. Yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah,
I would be nonplussed.
Yeah,
but he's very picky, so who knows if he is even gonna.
I imagine the drawing point is that it's Brady. Who's trying to bring him.
That's what Graziani writes.
So a lot of stuff's come out about the last year with him and the Commanders. Apparently, he didn't want to go there because Josh Harris is a basketball guy.
I remember hearing that.
Yeah.
I remember reading about that.
He is apparently like we've heard he's not interested in Jacksonville because of Trent Baalke, which is understandable.
I don't blame him for that.
Yeah. So he's going to be choosy. I can't imagine I think there could be appeal for him going to a space where they don't have the quarterback, so he gets to pick the quarterback. But at the same time, it might be beneficial to have a guy in place right away. I just don't know any.
I mean, his offense has been working with Jared Goff, who was established. Needed a rebuild, but was established.
Last two predictions for the Saints: Aaron Glenn, current defense coordinator for the Lions.
That's just so Saints. I don't think Aaron Glenn's a bad coach, but you got to think a little more forward-facing than that, guys.
And for the Jets, Arthur Smith, current offensive coordinator for the Steelers.
Awesome. Love it.
This would be so
just tremendous.
That is the most Jets possible hire.
Garrett Wilson would request a trade so quickly your head would spin.
You assume that he hasn't already.
Yeah.
And he may have.
He
That's
is
true.
Dying to get out.
No, because Woody Johnson would have leaked it. Or no, Brick would have leaked it.
Yeah, Brick
Johnson.
He's a brick and the Jets are drowning slowly.
Jeez.
Coasting off and I'm headed nowhere.
Wow, man, that's bringing back some college radio days right there. Before
a
we
great
take our
song.
final timeout, I want to tell you about my friends at Great Life here in Topeka. The roads have cleared. It's time to get back into the gym, and the Great Life facilities have everything you could possibly need. You go to greatlifetopeka.com. You can find out which facilities have which equipment, which facilities have pools, which facilities have training classes you can go to work out at in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening, and start your fitness journey. This is the great time to do it. Of course, it was probably some of your New Year's resolution to get fit. Great Life Topeka can help with their 8 fitness facilities. Go to greatlifetopeka.com. Become a member today. We'll take our final break. Come back with the final word after this. Wrapping up, walking off a Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk with the final word. Lead us off, Brendan Dworzinski.
I am a little bit worried that this K-State team may indeed be broken. We previewed their game against Texas Tech, which comes up at 8 o'clock here on 580 WIBW a little bit earlier on in this hour. And I totally agree with what Dan had to say, that if K-State gets a focused, energized kind of game, they can certainly beat Texas Tech. I'm just not really sure that K-State can get to that level at this point. So I'm going to take the Red Raiders. Cats, please prove me wrong. Make this game watchable.
Spencer Dupuis.
The Chiefs are the most rested team in the NFL, and I've gone back and forth the last couple of weeks if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's a great thing. And I think Jalen Watson is basically back. I think he's going to be back this weekend. I think you bring back McCole Hardman. I think you've got everybody you need for a playoff run for a three-peat, and I think it's going to be a three-peat.
Final word for me today. The divisional playoff round is set in the NFL. We should have 4 good ball games coming up this weekend. Obviously, the Chiefs and the Texans lead the weekend off. You get Washington, Detroit that Saturday night. That should be a lot of fun. Jaden Daniels against the Lions. Rams, Eagles should be entertaining as well. And then Baltimore, Buffalo. We didn't get a chance to say this on yesterday's show, but I got to say, as sports fans, as football fans, we deserve Ravens Bills. This is a football game we all deserve.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
It is going to rule so hard. It should be shown in movie theaters. It is going to be absolutely cinematic in Buffalo on Sunday night. These are the games we deserve as football fans. These are, looking up and down the list, these are talented quarterbacks. These are great coaches. These are hard-hitting defenses. This is a weekend that is going to be very entertaining in the NFL. That'll do it for 580 Sports Talk today. Remember, K-State Hoops is late tonight. Pregame at 7, tip-off at 8 as they take on Texas Tech here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. We'll be back with you tomorrow from 3 until 6. For Spencer and Brendan, I'm Dan. This was 580 Sports Talk. Good night.